Hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're still on Volume 5 of Heaven Official's Blessing, and this volume, it has been chaos and a half, let me tell you. So, a quick apology for last week. I took a break after recording that video because, one, I had some personal stuff going on in my life, and that's not an excuse for me being salty by my definition, and so I took a break to kind of get all of that under control. And then also, in the meantime, I've gotten Floor and Be Happy, thank you to them, who have been ever so gracious to decide to be moderators for my Discord as well as the channel itself. So they are being super kind and offering to look at comments on YouTube and Patreon with Heaven Official's blessing, so that not only to put myself at ease as far as spoilers go, because we're at that point of the story where it's just revelation after revelation, and I've almost been reading this story for a year now, and so it's kind of crazy, right? But they've been super nice and volunteering their time to go over the comments and everything, so thank you both very much. But also a special thank to the Discord, because I felt so frustrated last week, and as I'm recording this, that episode hasn't even aired on the channel yet, so I'm like, oh god, I think I sound awful. I'm sure it's fine. But everybody was really, really supportive on the Discord, and they were like, hey, it's okay, like, you know, you have every right to be vigilant about this, but it's not who I usually am, so it's always frustrating when I get frustrated about it, and the stuff that was going on in my personal life was mixing with the channel, and that's not something I want to do, because I don't want to bring you all into that. We're here to have fun and talk about gay ghosts and shit, so... So yeah, so thank you all for humoring me. Hopefully now that I have all of these other things in place, and the situation in my personal life is much, much better, then that won't happen. But I thank you all for your support graciously. So I have whiteboard over here with the unresolved plot points. I've kept them up since a few weeks ago. Nothing's changed. There's still unresolved plot points. But we're going to be looking at chapters 159 and 162 today. Another set of 4 chapters, and this is a big chunk. So I'm like, oh my god, it's like almost 50 pages worth. It is 49 pages of text. Holy cow. I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about the Manhwa, because as I'm recording this, I wanted to talk about Manhwa chapter 91 that just came out. I think it's 91 or 92. When I show you all the images, you will instantly know which chapter it is. But I'm going to talk about that first, and then talk about, and then we'll go, I have a few comments, and then we'll go into the chapters. But I'm really, really excited. I've missed Heaven Official's Blessing. It's been like a week and a half since I've read anything, and I'm like, okay, it's time. To get a cup of coffee, sit down, and read these chapters and see what we get. So I want to talk about the Manhwa first before we get into the comments, because it feels so good to go back to the Manhwa. It feels so good that Star Ember. I'm really hyped because I'm sure that as I'm recording ahead, the chapters that we get Manhwa chapters for are going to be really off. So I'm sorry that you all have to wait for me to catch up with you all and where you're at with the Manhwa, but I'm really excited because there are so many characters introduced in volume 2 on that I've been waiting for Star Ember to draw and show us their interpretation. Like I cannot tell you how much I want to see Hashan and Qi Rong in the style of Star Ember. I'm living to see Qi Rong in Star Ember's form. It's everything I want, all that I need, and we're gonna be getting it soon. So that's really exciting. But Junwoo. Star Ember likes drawing old Daddy Junwoo, like, looking really fierce. He just has this, like, almost porcelain expression. Like, he's, you know, Xie Lian's pale, but Junwoo is porcelain. He's not pale, he's porcelain, and you will respect it. So I like that a lot. I will say, and you guys can kind of, you know, comment as well, in the Manhwa, I've read Modao Zushi. With all of Lan Chanchu's backstory in the Manhwa, I was getting very much like Baby Ling, the Zhang like clan vibes, not the Lotus Pier, but like the whole vibes of Baby Ling's dad. I was getting like the Jin clan, there we go, the Jin clan robes with the yellows and everything. I was like, it wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting reds instead of yellows, so I think that's a really cool thing. I like it. Also, Xie Lian's like dancer and street performer design is so intriguing, like showing Xie Lian with his hair up and having these like these black tights underneath, and like the white, it's white, which is Xie Lian's color, but there's like a black belt, and like there's all these layers, and it's very different than what we've seen Xie Lian in. And I'm kind of excited about that because I think Star Ember can use some of their artistic ability to make his outfits look different. So that's really cool. I love what Star Ember is doing with Xie Lian in this chapter as far as how he looks. It's great. And then Xie Lian rescuing Lan Chu and just helping him get back to the palace. And even Xie Lian there, like, has just a distinct look about him. Like, he looks like he's beat up and roughed up. And I can't remember if Xie Lian looked like that from the start or if he actually fought with the guys while trying to get Lan Chu back. I do love that Star Ember also makes Lan Chu, even though he's a little kid in this image, he looks like Lan Chu. She just took his features and shrunk them down, which makes me really excited for when we, 20 years from now, will get Hua Chong as a little kid. I'm so excited. Cannot wait, right? Cannot wait. So then we go to Xie Lian getting sworn in as the Guoshi of Fang Xin. And again, I was really excited to see, I say I was excited to see what Xie Lian looked like. I wasn't expecting it to be anything like revolutionary or interesting. I just thought, oh, it'll be Xie Lian as the Guoshi, just kind of like the Guoshi of Xianle. But we've not seen Star Ember draw the Guoshi of Xianle yet, so that's something to look forward to as well, right? But let's be real. I mean, we'll get to the image of Xie Lian as the Guoshi. Just phenomenal job. Now, Mu Qing and Feng Xin do make an appearance here, and Mu Qing is stirring up trouble, and Feng Xin is like, quit stirring the pot. Stop talking about it. Like, let this play out. I think it's interesting that they're there stirring because we haven't seen them in so long. It's nice to see them again. To see them, we haven't seen them in ages. So it's good to see the two of them, especially Mu Qing. We haven't seen Mu Qing proper in a long time, right? But then, Lan Chu cuts his arm, making it even. I'd forgot about that part. Star Ember does not spare the grisly details. Star Ember's like, there's going to be blood. There will be blood, and here it is. And Xie Lian in his, like, white robe is like, just knowing, like, you see that blood, like, spurting everywhere. If Hua Chong had been there, he would have been so mad. He would have been like, only I can rain down blood. And even I don't rain down blood on Gege. There are flower petals, bitch. So just cut that out. Like, I can just see him, like, making a shield to stop Xie Lian from getting splurted with the blood, right? But what I was going to say is that we see Xie Lian, oh my god, with the blood, like, in front of him. It looks grisly as hell. I'm like, if Star Ember is going to get this crazy with the gore, I'm pretty excited to see where it's going to go. I'm not sure if I'm prepared to see Shi Wudu decapitated by Star Ember. Star Ember has a way of being gory, but it's also beautiful, so you kind of aren't grossed out about it. I don't know how I feel about Star Ember glamorizing Shi Wudu's decapitation. I'm like, how's that going to look? Is it going to be the most pretty thing ever? I'm very curious, right? But we see Lan Chu saying, like, we can duel with our left hands. There's something about Lan Chu's high ponytail that just makes him look like a himbo. It just makes him look like he belongs in the Barbie movie. I don't know how else to describe it, but that high ponytail, I just want to, it makes you just want to grab it and go, and cinch it. It just feels like 80s, and, like, I want to play, like, oh, Mickey, you're so pretty. I want to play that song, like, over and over again. I'm not going to sing any more of it because you don't want to hear it, and I don't want it stuck in my head. But him saying, if you call yourself a man, draw your sword. And Xie Lian's like, I don't need you to tell me I'm a man. I feel like that's a big part of Xie Lian's journey, though. Rereading this Manhwa chapter, I feel like it's a big part of Xie Lian's journey is because Xie Lian has constantly, like, emasculated himself throughout the course of the series. Like, he turns down the duel or whatever. He also, like, constantly says that he's impotent and can't get it up. And so Xie Lian's always, like, he pokes fun at himself a lot, and I can see why Hua Chong hates it, because he's like, you don't deserve to do that. I do love Star Ember drawing Xie Lian looking in the blade of the sword, and Xie Lian saying, if you fight me, you're gonna die, so that's why we're not gonna fight. He's like, no, let's not do that. And then the Windmaster. I love the Windmaster getting drawn. I forgot that they broke up the fight. I was like, oh, let's just wait and see what happens. I love Star Ember's design on the Windmaster. And I love the green meshed with the red of Lan Chu. I love the colors. I love Jun Woo as, like, essentially like silvers and golds is his color, which makes sense. He's the Imperial Emperor of all things. So yeah, and Junwoo just looking like a damn dilf. I'm like, Star Emperor ain't drawing no uggos in this series, so I'm very curious how Qi Ying is going to be. Either Star Emperor draws them incredibly handsome, or they're monsters. And Qi Ying's in this weird in between. So I'm like, how are we going to draw this? I'm so curious, right? But then we have the Guoshi and Xie Lian as the Guoshi and showing the parents, like, again, the gore, like showing them stabbed and bleeding out. And I love Xie Lian has the white underneath, but then he has the black over the top with like the gold inlet. It's such a cool design. And then we see Xie Lian. This is my favorite panel out of the entire chapter. Like, this panel here is stunning. Like, seeing Xie Lian with his little messy top knot saying it is true. And then seeing him as the Guoshi. Doesn't have the top knot, but his hair's in the ponytail flowing. And the mask, his eyes looking like opaque in it. Like, oh my God, it's just so well done. And the thing of it is that Xie Lian was trying to make it look like it was him. Again, we still don't know about, the whole coffin thing and him getting, and Lan Chu killing him. We'll maybe go back to that one day. But I'm glad that we're going back to these chapters because it feels like a little refresher. I had a lot of people on Patreon say they liked Whiteboard Kun, so I think at the start of each new volume, I'll bring out Whiteboard Kun again and we'll do like a little mini review to be like, here's where we are, to kind of go to from there. But yeah, I really liked the Manhwa this week. It was very nice. The chapters are really pretty. I can't guarantee that every other week will be the Manhwa. It will just depend on how I'm recording, when things come out, but I will keep doing the Manhwa, so no worries. And if somehow we finish the story, which I doubt this will happen, if we somehow finish the story before the Manhwa is completed, then I'll do some chapters of the then I'll do a reaction to the rest of the Manhwa and talk about it with y'all, or do a video about it. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think that if anything, Star Emperor will go on hiatus by the time that we finish this story, and then I'll have to come back and do the other future chapters in the future, or talk about them on Discord or whatever. We'll figure it out. Don't worry. It'll all come out in the wash, right? So, I have a few comments before we start, so I'm sorry this is a long intro, but Anime Annie talked about how Hua Chang's butterflies, they reminded me, and I had forgotten about this, honestly, that in the very first episode of the Donghua that I watched for this series, I talked about how the butterflies were like the ones in Bleach, the anime. I was like, oh, they're the butterflies. But Anime Annie pointed out a very interesting difference. The butterflies in Bleach, without spoiling anything, are used as a communication format. They can relay messages. Whereas in Heaven Official's Blessing, they're only used by Hua Chang to eavesdrop and use as espionage. So they can't communicate back and forth. And I thought that was a really cool difference. Also, Xie Lian and Hua Chang are opposites on the talk first, act later spectrum. Xie Lian would rather talk first. Hua Chang is like, let's just butt heads and then figure it out. So they are different in that regard. And then the idea of, I loved Anime Annie brought this up, that the civil gods should have challenged Hua Chang to a calligraphy contest. They should have challenged him to an essay writing contest, and then he wouldn't have beat him. Should have been thinking about that, shouldn't we have? But that's not what happened. SQQLBH314 had a really good thing brought up, and I wanted to tackle it because it's been on our board about Xie Lian's luck. And the idea is, I hadn't even thought about this in the last couple chapters, but Xie Lian going the correct direction to find Ling Wen, Jing Wen, and Pei Ming was a sign of good luck. Hua Chang went the other direction, along with Pei Su Jr. So it's good luck that Xie Lian found where they were at, and I don't think Hua Chang had anything to do with it. Again, reinforcing this idea that the matter of luck is really what other people make of it. It's not Xie Lian, it's what people think it is. And I'm like, oh, that was just a really good thing to note, right? Also, SQQLBH314 noted that the phrase worn shoes is an idiom that refers to a woman who has slept with other men, meaning that she's wore out. So when they tell the House of Worn Shoes, it's like an entendre that's making fun of Ling Wen. So no wonder she was pissed off. She was like, how dare you, sirs, make fun of me that way? Like, here's what gets me about all that too. And I don't know if I said this in my comment back to them or not, but what's so frustrating is the hypocrisy of it all, because Pei Ming is a womanizer. He sleeps with women all the time. That's what he's known for. He's been doing it since he was a general when he was mortal. He's been just sleeping with women and whatever. And yeah, he treats them right and leaves them well. that's all good and all, and that's good for him. But it's such a hypocrisy that the heavenly court is like, Pei Ming, that womanizer, whatever. That's just part of who he is. He's just a womanizer and a smoozer, but he just can't help it. But when it's Ling Wen, they're suddenly like, what a bitch, what a slut. And I'm like, how is it? It's such a double standard. I'm like, how is it that she can get shamed for doing something that you praise Pei Ming for? Right? It's such a double standard. I like that MXX points it out, but I'm like, The only saving grace is that Pei Ming is kind of a goof and is kind of lovable despite it all. So that does help. He can be an ass, but he's a lot better than what I thought he was going to be going into this story. Right? But I don't blame Ling Wen for being mad. Not one bit. And then finally, Millie Pop says that Hua Chong knows all the tea, but doesn't gossip himself. And I kind of like that. It almost seems like a karma thing where Hua Chong does not gossip and spread rumors about others. So it's almost like a karmatic reward that he gets to learn all the tea, but he's smart and he doesn't spread it everywhere. And so he's able to just store it away and use it to his advantage. I thought that was really cool. And then if you've ever watched Devil's Wear Prada, Millie Pop talked about how Ling Wen actually becomes the Miranda from Devil Wears Prada. And I was like, that's actually hilarious. So yeah, y'all, we're going to start these chapters 159 to 162. When we last left, I'll be honest, last set of chapters was also kind of weird. I'm not going to lie. The whole thing with them getting stuck in the mud and then Qi Ying is stuck in the wall of the mountain spirit. It got a little bit surreal and weird in the last set of chapters. I liked it because I loved Xie Lian and Hua Chong embracing. Like that part in the Red String of Fate, that was amazing. I love the symbolism. I love all that. But it was a fairly weird set of chapters, even by MXTX standards. And everybody's all split up. They're eavesdropping on Qi Ying, and Yin Yu is back in the game. He's shown back up, and apparently he's going to talk to Qi Ying, so I'm really excited about that. But y'all, I don't know what we're getting out of these chapters, but I'm really excited to talk about it with y'all. So we've wasted like 15 minutes. We're not going to waste any more time. We're going to dive into Heaven Official's Blessing, chapters 159 to 162, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Chapter 159. The Jade refuses to be a thrown away brick. The Jade refuses to be a thrown away brick. Okay, so like something fancy and sophisticated refusing to be just a thrown away weapon. That seems like it could relate to Yin Yu and Qi Ying, perhaps. It was indeed Yin Yu. The Earthmaster shovel was still in his hand. With the divine device still in his grip, even if he was swallowed by a mountain spirit, he could still swiftly dig a path to escape. Thus, it wasn't strange for him to appear. After all, Chan Yizhen's furious pounding earlier was considerably alarming. Yeah, drawing their attention. Since the images the left and the right eye saw were different, it was quite uncomfortable. Oh, and Xie Lian blinked lightly. This made him discover that even with his eyes closed, his right eye could still see the scene outside. And so he just kept his eyes closed. And then his field of vision shuddered and wildly shook, swinging from left to right. It appeared that Chan Yizhen had finally come to and was shaking his head. Oh, because they're inside the butterfly's inside of his massive head of hair. Okay. Seeing him look up, Yin Yu reacted swiftly and raised his hand to bring his ghost mask down to cover his face. But Chan Yizhen didn't have time to mind him all, since the moment he woke, his entire body was violently yanked backwards and another chunk sank. Oh, it would swallow another chunk of his body. Oh, shoot. Okay, so he tried to smash the wall with his fist to pull himself out at the same time, but the mountain spirit was probably thousands of years in age. Its wicked powers immense, and it opened its mouth to suck again. He was sinking deeper and deeper until the sounds of the wall pounding disappeared and both of his hands were dragged into the stone wall. But it seemed to have stopped its movements. He only had his head exposed on the outside. Oh my God, well this is bad. This is very bad. Then he realized someone was standing below him. Who are you? He didn't respond, but through his mask, the sharpness of his eyes could be seen. Those eyes made one feel chills. Xie Lian could help but think those eyes don't look like the eyes of someone who desired a reunion at all. Is that a shovel in your hand? Help me dig out of this wall. I want to come out. He'd always talked this way, naive, matter of fact, fearless and unconcerned of the consequences, almost like a child. He didn't even ask who the other one was before making him help, completely inconscient of whether that peculiar shadowed figure who appeared under such circumstances should be there to kill him. Hearing his demand, Yin Yu's hand that was holding the Earthmaster shovel gripped harder. A moment later, with that snow-bright shovel in his grip, he slowly approached Qi Ying, taking one step after the other, like he was a murderer about to commit a major crime. For some reason, watching this play out made Xie Lian grow anxiously unnerved. Wait, why does it look like he wants to gouge out his head with the shovel? He just might, Huanchang said. What? Xie Lian said. But we can't have him kill Qi Ying at the moment. Right now, the mountain spirit can only swallow whole, so digestion isn't easy. But if Qi Ying dies, leaving only a corpse, then he'd be much easier to digest. If the mountain spirit should devour a heavenly official, its powers would grow exponentially, so it'd mean more trouble for us to get out. Wait. Sanlong, easy digestion aside, Yin Yu is your subordinate, so is your understanding of him, do you think he'll kill Qi Ying? Do they have a deep grudge between them? Qi Ying had been so determined in his search for Yin Yu. Since they were Shixiong and Shidi under the same sect, there was no way he couldn't have seen his character clearly. So Xie Lian thought that Qi Ying believed Yin Yu was someone worthy to seek. And with Qi Ying's personality, he couldn't have done anything to make anyone to want to kill him. Huachang replied, there isn't one. But sometimes, the desire to kill someone doesn't have to come from a deep grudge. It can very well come from small matters. Especially small matters that you yourself don't notice. What small matters? Xie Lian asked. As the words left his lips, the scene his right eye saw changed. What he saw wasn't Huachang's red robes, and it wasn't the scene of one man facing one head on a stone wall, but a large street. Xie Lian was about to ask what this was when he heard a bustling noise coming from ahead. There was a crowd of cultivators on the road, seeming to be surrounding someone and yelling furiously. When he looked closer, he discovered that among the crowd was a small child crouched down, his head full of curly hair, his face covered in blood. Oh, we getting flashbacks now? To be surrounded and yelled at by such a crowd, if it was any normal child, they would have been terrified and cried immediately. But this child was only about 10 years old, and not only was he not scared, he seemed to be excited even, his eyes darting around, his little fists itching to be tested. Just then a young cultivator pushed back the crowd and approached. Let it go, stop yelling. He should know he's wrong by now. Oh, the young cultivator had bright eyes and a glowing, spirited face. His back straight, standing tall. It was Yin Yu. However, perhaps it was because this was when Yin Yu was at the height of his youth. His air was confident and bold. His will was yet not dimmed by the wear and drain of time. He appeared to be much brighter than the faint impression that he'd left in Xie Lian's mind when they'd first met. Anyone would call him an impressive young youth. They were practically two different people. He wasn't so boringly plain back then! Huachang laughed out loud. Well, who wasn't young once? Only then Xie Lian realized he accidentally spoke his mind out loud. Oh, Sanlong's right eyes can see these things too? It's not my right eye that can see it. It's something else that did. I'm only borrowing it for viewing, that's all. Amazing, incredible. It's easy. If you are to pick a subordinate, you must do a thorough background check. This I'm still pretty good at. If in the future Gege has a need and wants to search someone's background, come find me anytime. What can't Huachang do? What can he not do, right? Just then, in the scene their right eye was showing, another quietly handsome young man around Yin Yu's age spoke to him furiously. Knew he's wrong, my ass. Look at him. Does it look like he knows he was in the wrong? This brat doesn't know anything at all. We are minding our own business, doing morning training, and he ruined the session with his randomly thrown rocks and mud. We've got to teach him a lesson. Yin Yu stopped him. Let it go, Zhan Yu. Oh, he's already been beaten by you like this. I'm sure he wouldn't dare do it next time. You've vented all your anger. What more is there to discipline? If you discipline him any more, he's going to die. Look at this child dressed like this. There mustn't be anyone at home and no one to discipline him. Just ignore him and go back to calm down. Zhan Yu spat as he turned around. I'm telling you, this brat is mental. He's not normal. Look at him, looking so happy when people are beating him up. I think he wants to go another round. Yin Yu pushed them away to leave. Ugh, you said yourself he's mental, so why bother with him so much? It was easy to tell that Yin Yu's words and weight are among those of his sect, and while the crowd was still upset, they went away. Yin Yu took a look at the child sitting on the ground and he crouched down. Before he even opened his mouth, the little child scooped a handful of mud and threw it at his face, his expression still excited. The mud hit Yin Yu squarely in the face and he was speechless for a moment. He wiped himself clean and asked, "Oh, little kid, why are you so mischievous? Why'd you hit cultivators at our temple?" The small child leapt up and struck an attacking stance. Come at me! Yin Yu stood up. This attacking stance is of our sect. Who taught you? Come at me! And jumped up and down like he was a silly little monkey. He even grabbed for fists for handfuls of mud and rocks and from the ground to throw at his opponent. Incredibly accurate within his aim. Yin Yu was older than him by a few years, and minding his own status, he couldn't fight a child, so he ended up running around while dodging the attacks. This fighting stance also came from our sect. Did you climb the walls to peek in and learn the secret every day? Stop hitting me! I said stop hitting me! I didn't even hit you! Do you really like fighting that much? Yet unexpectedly, when the words came out, Qi Ying actually did come to a sudden stop and nodded, rubbing his muddy, grimy little hands. I like it. He said it so seriously that Xie Lian and Yin Yu were stunned. There was no need to say who this child was. Xie Lian was in awe. Qi Ying really is a martial fanatic. He was born to be a martial god. Even though at that moment, others all thought Qi Ying was a mental child, Xie Lian felt he could relate. There must be fanaticism towards something before one can achieve a state of godly. When it came to this point, those who could understand this sense of obsession knew it meant there was potential, that there was a possibility. Those who couldn't understand and only knew how to taunt those mental idiots would have no hope in this path from the beginning. Wow, we're going to talk about this in the discussion, but Yin Yu blinked and then laughed. But he didn't laugh for very long before another ball of mud was splattered on his face. He quickly yelled out, hey, I said stop hitting me. Now listen to me. How about, do you want to enter our sect and learn how to fight? Hearing this, Qi Ying's movement stopped and a ball of mud in his hand. But Xie Lian didn't know whether he threw it, because right at that moment, upon the stone wall outside, there came a resounding clunk sound. Yin Yu had stabbed the Earthmaster shovel into the wall. He didn't actually break Qi Ying's neck with the shovel, but the sharp metal brushed past Qi Ying's face, exceedingly deadly. That silver butterfly hidden in Qi Ying's hair was quite steady, and while it didn't flutter from the sudden strike, the image Xie Lian saw in his right eye changed from the shock, and he blurted in spite of himself, don't! Hua Chong, however, seemed to have expected this already. Just watch. He certainly does have the intention, but his killing intent isn't that strong yet. Qi Ying only had a head exposed on the outside. You want to kill me? Yin Yu didn't respond. Have I done something wrong? Did he do something? Xie Lian also asked. It's difficult to say, Hua Chong said. Gege, watch for yourself. Then, the vision before Xie Lian's right eye showed a cultivation hall with long white walls and black tiles. Yin Yu looked a few years older than he was earlier and was sitting poised, poring over a desk and writing fervently. Next to him was a large crowd of trainees crying their grievances, angry and hungry for justice. Yin Yu, Xizhong, the way Qi Ying eats is too unbearable. Every time at mealtime, his rice sprays everywhere, and he eats 3 times as much as everyone. And he's a starving ghost or something, hogging the rice bucket. No one can eat well. Yin Yu, Xizhong, I can't live with anymore. I want to change rooms. He's so cranky in the mornings. I worry every day that he'll kick and break my ribs. I can't deal with him. Yin Yu, Xizhong, I don't want to be in this group anymore. That bastard never cooperates with others, nor is he considerate of anyone. He only cares to throw fists randomly and show off. I'd rather be in the same group as the weakest Shidi than with him. Yin Yu was getting overwhelmed by all the complaints. All right, then how about this? I'll investigate first, and after I've investigated, I'll think what the best course of action is. Go back for today. The one who slapped the table and complained the loudest was, of course, Xian Yu, and he obviously wasn't satisfied with this response. Yin Yu, you shouldn't have had the master take that brat in the first place. Now trouble's come through the door. Look how long he's been with us now. What days has he not caused chaos? What days has he not caused destruction? The crowd was trying to force his hand, so Yin Yu tried to pacify them. It's not like the things he did were that bad. Not that bad. He killed our peace and quiet. How can we cultivate in peace? Well, there's never been this much trouble in the past. Yin Yu could only say, Xizhen doesn't mean anything malicious. He's just too ignorant of the way of the world, and he doesn't know how to get along with others. Ignorance of the ways of the world isn't an excuse. If he doesn't know, can't he learn? Since we all live in this world full of people, then you must learn how to get along with others. How old is he now? He can't always be like a child. There are people who are dads now at his age. Master's favoritism aside, this brat has only been here for how many years? The moment he came, he took over all the benefits. The best training hall was given to him. The best potion produced every season is given to him. He can skip morning and evening lessons, is exempt from reciting sutras, and even when the master catches him, he only gets lightly reprimanded. No lectures at all. What's so good about him? Yin Yu Zhejiang, you're the eldest disciple. If you acted like that, then we'd all let it go. We've nothing to say. But who the hell is he? No education, no manners. So what if he's talented? None of us will accept him. This had the veiled intent to alienate Qi Ying, and the crowd all agreed in unison. When Yin Yu heard, his expression instantly grew dim, and he gripped his brush. Xie Lian thought things were getting discouraging. Those with ordinary patience would easily fall for this hook, and if it was someone narrow-minded, then even without the hook he would have already been jumping on his feet. So when the lure flashed, wouldn't he just explode? However, unexpectedly, after some contemplation, Yin Yu put down his brush and admonished solemnly, "Shitty, I think what you are all saying isn't right." The crowd was taken aback. He continued, "I'm going to say something unpleasant. No matter what path we cultivate, talent truly is something incredible. Besides, not only is he talented, he is willing to work hard. If you really think the master is playing favorites, then let's work harder to keep up with him, overtake him. And then the training halls, the potion halls will naturally open their doors to everyone. If everyone has the time to be mad, then why not use that energy to cultivate and train more? Am I right?" Hearing his reprimand, everyone's enthusiasm dropped, but they still said Shixiong is being generous, not disputing with him. This patience alone threw him out for 10,000 miles. However, Zhang Yu warned Yin Yu, "You speak for him today, but be careful of him screwing you over in the future." In any case, after this round of complaints, neither party was pleased. After the crowd of fellow disciples left, Yin Yu closed the doors and was about to shut the windows when suddenly he found someone perched there. He jumped in surprise. "Who's there?" Qi Ying had his head bowed, perching on the windowsill. When Yin Yu saw it was him, he questioned, "When did you come?" He pulled at him, but Qi Ying didn't move. "Yijin, if you're going to perch, find a different place. I'm going to shut the window." "Shixiong, am I annoying?" Oh no, oh, Yijin, oh, sweetheart, oh no. Chapter 160, The Jade Refuses to be a Thrown-Away Brick 2. "You heard." Qi Ying nodded, and Yin Yu's expression grew complicated. He scratched the bridge of his nose with the joint of his finger. "You're not that bad, I guess." Any normal person would have picked up on how forced the words were, but Qi Ying seemed to have only taken them at face value. "Oh." He could tell that he took it for the truth and smiled before finally giving him some encouragement. "You don't need to mind them. You didn't do anything wrong, really. It's good like this, too." Anyone with clear eyes could see that the Shixiong and Shidi couldn't stand Qi Ying. They found fault everywhere, not because of his appetite being big, not because he was cranky in the mornings, and not because he was inconsiderate of others in the groups and only cared to show himself off. At the end of the day, what they really couldn't stand was the last part. He entered the latest, but received the most. Qi Ying nodded. "Why, I think so too." "Well, then go train. That's what's most important. Don't think about anything unnecessary." And thus he hopped off the window. Looking at where he was headed, he indeed went to train. As for Yin Yu, he shut the window, picked up the books of his desk, and started studying. After watching the two scenarios, Xie Lian praised, "For so long, this subordinate of yours really is a rare character. What a great personality." But then he remembered Yin Yu outside just now almost smashed open Qi Ying's head with the Earthmaster shovel. "Is everything all right out there?" Hua Chong thus showed him the outside. Yin Yu had calmed down, pulled out the Earthmaster shovel, and seemed to be contemplating just what to do with Qi Ying's head. Xie Lian relaxed a little. "I suppose the problems between them started after Ascension." "Correct." Then a sumptuous great hall appeared before Xie Lian's eye. Yin Yu sat poised and proper in the center of the grand hall, and Zhang Yu and Qi Ying stood guard behind him, one on the left and one on the right. Within the hall, gods after gods came in and about. They were all heavenly officials of the upper court. Xie Lian saw many familiar faces, like the male Ling Wen, the apathetic Pei Ming, Lan Chuanchu with his perfect smile. They were all in formal attire and attending junior officials behind them, holding large red gift boxes in their hands. Obviously, this was the heavenly court, the palace of Yin Yu. This day was the palace opening ceremony of the Palace of Yin Yu, the grand, propitious day his divine residence was erected. Xie Lian was slightly amazed. It wasn't hard for Huachong to see the images of the mortal realm. The mortal realm was his domain, and as long as he wanted to cast the net, any pedestrian, feral spirit, bird, or beast could become his eyes. However, the heavenly court was within heaven's boundaries, so how could he see it too? Huachong seemed to have guessed what he was thinking. He said, Gege, take a look at the corner near the entrance hall. Xie Lian listened to him and gazed over. The perimeter of this corner was quite big. Because this grand hall was not small, the corner of the hall entrance had at least 10 figures milling about. Huachang asked, guess which one is Blackwater? Only then did Xie Lian remember that Hashan had always been undercover in the upper court, and it must have been him who had been selling all the information to Huachang. Xie Lian focused and tried to guess, and a moment later, he found the one that seemed to match. That one in black? Oh, this guess is too conservative. It's wrong. Guess again. The one not smiling or speaking? Wrong again. He guessed a number of people and they were all wrong. Just then someone announced, presenting Lord Windmaster! Xie Lian instantly looked to the entrance of the great hall. Shi Qingzhang was fanning his Windmaster fan, strolling and swaying as he crossed over the threshold, his face bright and full of the breeze of spring. He tossed his gift box to the side and raised his hands in courtesy. Congratulations to the Palace of Yanyu for its grand opening. I've come late. Give me wine as punishment. I've missed the Windmaster. Yanyu, sitting on his throne, smiled. Nonsense, my lord is not late. Lord Windmaster, please, this way. Huachang finally revealed the answer. It's this one. Lord Windmaster is Blackwater. Now that was too incredible, and Huachang laughed. No, Gege misunderstood. Not this one, the one behind him. Xie Lian looked closely and saw standing at the side of the hall entrance behind the Windmaster was a low-ranking heavenly official responsible for receiving gifts from all the guests. His appearance was undistinguished, but fervent smiles covered his face. The Windmaster crossed into the hall looking very pleased and casually tossed him a small pearl as a tip. The heavenly official's eyes shone, and catching the pearl with both of his hands, he thanked my lord profusely, looking every part a servant. That's Blackwater? A Blackwater with such a bright smile? That's him, Huachang said. The smile is fake, that's all. The man has at least 50 clones stationed throughout the heavenly court, each with a different identity. He can monitor over 80 heavenly officials of the upper court and over 300 heavenly officials of the middle court. Otherwise, with just the Earthmaster identity, it's far from adequate. Oh my God, he's had all the clones! Oh, so ghosts can make clones too, that's right. Oh my God! Xie Lian couldn't help but be in absolute awe of the Blackwater's acting, his ability to plant pawns, and inconceivably exuberant energy. Then where are those 50-some clones now? Junwu is probably pulling out those nails one by one right now, Huachang replied. Oh my gosh! Just as the words left his lips, a sudden sharp voice came from the outside. Your Highness Yanyu, you'd better give us a good explanation today for your Shidi. The smiles on all the heavenly officials instantly dropped, and they looked to the sound at the same time. It appeared there was someone who intended to barge in, but was stopped, so they were unrelentingly yelling outside. Are you not going to discipline your Shidi Chan Yijin, who beat up heavenly officials of higher ranks? Yenyu's smile disappeared, and he lowered his voice, questioning the two behind him. What's going on, Yijin? You pick another fight with someone? Yeah, John Yijin replied. As John Yu bulged his eyes in rage, gritting his teeth. You again, you stinking brat. When incidents like these happened, the Windmaster was always the first to speak, and he spoke up after tucking his whisk in his back collar. Oh, what's going on? Today's the palace's grand opening. Why can't this wait? To try and cause havoc on someone's propitious day, either they were blind and ignorant, or they were trying to pick fights on purpose. The mob outside the palace yelled, well, now it's so our Lord's joyous palace's grand opening day. We don't know, but he didn't choose his day when he came looking for fights, so why did we need to choose days when we're seeking revenge? Chan Yijin belongs to the palace of Yanyu, personally appointed by His Highness Yanyu, so who else can we seek if not him? There it was. They were here to pick a fight. Lingwen furrowed his brows slightly. Why must this be? Yanyu rose to his feet resigningly. I understand. However, it's not a good time right now. Can we talk afterwards? We can only hope the Palace of Yanyu won't cover this up. The truth of things hadn't even been cleared, and the accusation of covering up was already shot out. It was simply pure harassment. The Windmaster seemed to be ready to speak up again when Chan Yijin suddenly jumped down from behind Yanyu. Are you leaving or not? The troublemakers were obviously confident that he wouldn't dare retaliate during this occasion, and they shouted fearlessly, Why? You gonna fight if we don't? All the fellow heavenly colleagues are watching. Yet, Chan Yijin wasn't someone who could be predicted by normal rationale. Without another word, he raised his fists and dashed out. Terrible wails came from outside of the palace, and every heavenly official inside the hall was stunned. It was only after a while that Ling Wen spoke up. "Well, guards, stop him! They're going to die!" Yin Yu was dumbfounded and hurried out. "Stop this instant!" The troublemakers only yelled, "Think your palace of Yin Yu is all that? Good, very good. Shixiong and Shidi are ganging up to bully people." That evening, in the side chamber of the palace of Yin Yu was pacing back and forth while Zhan Yu was stomping in rage. A perfectly good grand opening ceremony was completely ruined by that stinking brat. Xie Lian could understand Yan Ju's anger completely. Xie Lian himself didn't care much for something like the grand opening ceremony of a palace, but many other heavenly officials thought it was significant. It was a ritual that validated a heavenly official's formal inclusion to the heavenly court. Today's incident, for lack of proper example, was like an emperor of the mortal realm whose enthroning ceremony was ruined, so who wouldn't be angry? Yin Yu sighed. Let it go. It must be the others who provoked him first. Besides, he didn't cause trouble today. It was the others who purposely chose today to come pick a fight, so what can we do? There are so many people in the upper court. Why don't others pick on others? Why don't others pick on others and just have to provoke him? Zhan Yu demanded. You know this. He's never one to take a beating without fighting back. It's not that others don't pick on others. It's that everyone else knows how to endure the provocations that he doesn't. This is the heavenly court, Zhan Yu ranted. It's not the mortal realm. Is it so hard to put your head down and stay low profile? If he never stirred up trouble and stayed an honest soul, then today's incident would never have the opportunity to happen. Now look at us. We've lost all face. So many heavenly officials were watching. Once it gets out, who cares who started it? They'd only say the palace of Yin Yu was being unreasonable and roughed people in broad daylight. Who's going to debate who's right or wrong? Do you think he has reason? He doesn't. The moment things go down, the moment you raise a fist, you're the unreasonable one. He understands shit. He only knows how to cause trouble for us. After his blow-up, Zhan Yu ragingly left the side chamber, leaving Yin Yu sitting where he was, his heart heavy with worry. A moment later, he looked back and the shadow of a figure was perched on the windowsill. Yin Yu jumped in surprise once again by a familiar scene. Why are you perching there again? When did you come? What is this habit? Yizhen didn't answer his question, but said instead, they cussed at me first. Yin Yu opened his mouth to speak and then closed it. And then he comforted, Yizhen, don't take what Zhan Yu said to heart. Yizhen only continued to say what was on his mind. They cussed at me first. I don't even know them. They said I was a low-ranking heavenly official, and they yelled at me for no reason. They laughed at me and told me to scram and not to block their way. I told them to apologize, and they wouldn't, so I beat them. They only shut up when I beat them. Otherwise, I wouldn't have hit them. Although things were considerably more peaceful now, in the earlier days, some heavenly officials of both the upper and lower courts would indeed throw the weight of their ranks around and would bully the lower ranks with the least amount of experience. It was something that happened often. Yin Yu sighed. Are lower-ranking heavenly officials below other people? Yizhen asked. No, Yin Yu replied. Were they not? It was obvious that he himself didn't believe his own words, and Yizhen noticed. A good while later, he said bluntly, I don't like it here. And Yin Yu said nothing. Yizhen continued, they think I'm annoying, but I think they're even more annoying. Before, there were at least 16 hours in a day that I could train, but now half that time is taken up by talking and listening to nonsense with people, greeting and visiting. There are people who shame me, hit me for no good reason, without apologizing. I can't even fight back. This is no heaven. I don't like it here. Yin Yu sighed, I don't like it here either. Then let's go back, Yizhen said. But Yin Yu shook his head. Even though I don't like it here, I still want to stay. Yizhen couldn't understand. If you don't like it here, then why stay? His smile forlorn, Yin Yu didn't know what to say, unable to explain it to him. How to explain to Yizhen that the heavenly court was the dream end goal of how many people who sought the cultivation path, and just how difficult it was for someone his age to achieve ascension. Yin Yu tried. This is because ascension is really hard. Since it didn't come easily, and we've made it here, then I want to try and do better. Yizhen, however, didn't think much of it. What's so great about ascension? Who cares if one ascends? Yin Yu found him both exasperating and a little funny. What do you mean what's so great about it? Why don't you give it a try then? Watching up to this point, Xie Lian commented, people really shouldn't joke lightly. Indeed, Hua Chong said. Half a year later, when Yizhen actually ascends, he won't find it so funny anymore. Can we watch that part too? Xie Lian's like, I want to watch that part too! He's like, we can't, hold on. I was about to cry during this, y'all. This is the most heartbreaking conversation. Oh my God, there's so much to talk about. The scene changed, and this time it was still the heavenly court, but the banquet was beneath the moon. Xie Lian watched for a moment. The mid-autumn banquet, that's right. Where's Blackwater hiding this time? Look who's eating. At the banquet, every heavenly official was busy clinking glasses, marking greetings, and playing games. There was only one person whose face was stuffed in a giant bowl in front of him. This time, Hashan wasn't hiding, but was sitting in the corner openly in the guise of the Earthmaster. There was still no one who noticed him. Yin Yu and Zhan Yu were seated next to the Earthmaster, the placements considered the edge of the feast. Yin Yu wasn't eating and wasn't talking to anyone. Next to him, Zhan Yu whispered, "Thank God that mental stinking brat didn't come." Yin Yu heard him and whispered back, "He's been ascended for a while now. It wouldn't be good if others heard you talk about him like that, so be more mindful." "The truth is thus, am I wrong?" Zhan Yu said. "So what if he's ascended? His brain won't get any smarter no matter how many hundreds of heads he obtains." As they conversed, a new group of heavenly officials arrived, and they were just seating themselves. They were mostly new faces, and they greeted simply. A heavenly official inquired offhandedly, "And this lord is?" Another heavenly official also offhandedly answered, "This lord is the martial god who rules the West." Hearing this, the heavenly official who made the inquiry instantly became enthusiastic and stood up to toast. Oh, no! I've heard so much about you. I admired my lord for so long." Yin Yu quickly stood up too, smiling, "Please, it hasn't been long." The heavenly official replied, "Oh, don't be so humble, my lord. I truly admired you for a long time. I've long heard your highness Qi Ying of the West is young and capable, only ascending for a few years. You're already deeply rooted in the hearts of devotees. You even made it into the top 10 in this year's autumn battle of the lanterns. You are truly the hero of the West, your status immovable, your future endlessly bright to see my lord today. You seem much older than I imagined, but still fairly young, worthy of praise, young and capable." Hearing this, the smile on Yin Yu's face froze, and whether this toast should be accepted became extremely awkward. The other party continued fervently to try to build a relationship, even addressing him like they were brothers. "An honest word, I rarely consider anyone worthy, but Brother Chan just feels so much like my family. My domain is also in the West, so if Brother ever needs any help in the future, as long as you think well of me, by all means just let me know. We should help each other out, eh?" He laughed heartily, and those on the side who knew Yin Yu also laughed heartily. Xie Lian could almost cross through time and feel the suffocating awkwardness brimming in the air. Zhan Yu's face was growing blue from rage, and Yin Yu was still somewhat composed. While his hand trembled for a second, he steadied himself. "Unfortunately." However, just as he was going to clear this misunderstanding, someone called out, "Qi Ying is here!" Oh my god. We still have 2 more chapters! This jade refuses to be thrown away. As a brick, 3. It became bustling and lively on the other end of the banquet, and the heavenly official on the side was shocked. Oh, you're not His Highness Qi Ying." Only did the others explain laughingly, their hands hugging their stomachs. "You got the wrong person, my brother. Did you forget there are 2 martial gods ruling the West? One is Yin Yu and the other is Qi Ying. They're Shixiong and Shidi of the same sect. The one in front of you is His Highness Yin Yu." The heavenly official said, Oh, I've got the wrong person. How embarrassing. I'm too ignorant of the world, having only heard more about Qi Ying." He trailed off, but Yin Yu had already closed his eyes, like he was too tired for words and had gave up on socializing. Someone had noticed things were not going right and elbowed the heavenly official, and only then did he notice that what he said was hurtful. "Oh, I'll take my leave now. Oh, Your Highness Yin Yu, Yin Yu, Your Highness Yin Yu. Let's go together sometime. Happy mid-autumn." Although he said he was taking his leave, he raised his glass and cheered before heading in Chan Yishan's direction. On the other end of the banquet, there was already a large crowd of heavenly officials, all fighting to greet Chan Yishan. The sea of people was thick, and the person in the center couldn't be seen. It appeared that this was soon after Chan Yishan had ascended and erected his own palace. He was at the height of his popularity in heaven, in contrast to how he was disliked by most in the present court. Although the 2 were both martial gods of the West, his prominence was greatly more significant than that of Yin Yu. The attendees all swarmed, the table now empty and quiet. Only Hashan still sat there drinking his soup. It was awkward no matter if he stood or sat. A moment later, Yin Yu suddenly said, "Let's head back." The 2 lowered their seats and no one noticed. Zhan Yu was enraged. Those shallow, fair-weathered people, and they're all heavenly officials no less. Back when that brat first joined the upper court, they all gave him the cold shoulder, complaining to you all day and every day, and now look at them. The brat's ascended, he's got lanterns, and they praise him to the skies. They change attitudes faster than flipping a page. What immovable status, what young and capable. His devotees are all mental, just like him. Only idiots would worship someone with brain damage. Just then, the Windmaster walked over with a glass of wine. Yin Yu whispered, "Don't talk anymore. Let's get out of here." It was only after seeing someone that came from seeing someone come that Zhang Yu finally shut his mouth. The Windmaster was puzzled. "Oh, Yin Yu, are you going back? Didn't Qi Ying just come? I heard him say last time the two of you haven't gotten to see each other for a long time, and he even asked me what you've been up to. Aren't you going to catch up with him a little bit?" Yin Yu forced a smile. "No, I'm not feeling well. I'll head back first." The Windmaster didn't think too deeply on it, and when he saw the Hearthmaster sitting behind him, he laughed cheerfully. "Well, then you go and rest easy, and we'll get together next time. Oh, Mingzhong, I told you not to sit there. Come over to my table." They waited until the Windmaster walked away and stopped caring for them, and then Zhang Yu lowered his head and continued to grumble. "Catch up my ass. That brat won't have much time to be so proud before the rug gets pulled under his feet and he suffers a crushing defeat. I eagerly await that day." He kept grousing, aggravating Yin Yu's silent frustration. "Just drop it and stop being so resentful." Drop it. That's all you say is drop it," Zhang Yu complained. "How can this be dropped? When he first came up, if it wasn't for you always going around and wiping his ass and begging for forgiveness, he would have long been kicked out already. I really can't watch this anymore. I'm frustrated for you." And the two had already swiftly returned to the palace of Yin Yu. Compared to that exceptional liveliness of the palace grand opening, the halls were now desolate and deserted, with very few lower-ranked officials attending to them. After closing the gates, Yin Yu's voice grew louder. "Don't say any more. I don't want to hear it. It's very normal for an ascended heavenly official to erect a palace. He didn't do anything out of line. Since you just get irritated just by talking to him, then why must you mention him?" "Don't think me to be speaking out of turn, but someone must remind you. Yin Yu, the domain in the west, is only so big, and there's only so many devotees. He's already robbed so many. That wolf monster was totally wrenched away by him. Look at the state of you now. Your domain's shrinking smaller and smaller. Just how many do you have left? How can you maintain your standing if this keeps up?" "How is it considered robbing?" Yin Yu said. "It's not like he held anyone at knife point to worship him. Everyone's willing. Besides, that wolf monster..." "Wolf monster!" He sighed and said frankly, "I really couldn't have defeated it. It was useless praying to me, so of course they went to him." Zhang Yu held his head and his heart aching. I'm just scared that if this fight continues, we'll have nothing left. Fuck, even those lower-ranking officials are all ass-kissers, each of them using empty excuses to quit, to slip away to other heavenly officials. What a bunch of no-good asshats!" Yin Yu sighed again, sitting down on the prayer cushion. "What fight? Why care for such a thing? What must leave will always leave in the end, and what should remain will naturally stay. I didn't ascend to fight over power with anyone, nor fight over domains, so why can't you let this go? As they say, one mountain has no room for two tigers. Just look at the present example. Feng Xin and Mu Qing, who were both stationed in the south, had been going at each other's throats for years. If they weren't in the same territory, things might be a little better. I forget they were in the same territory. I forget this was a thing. Yeah, but enemies are destined to meet, and where one is renowned, where one is renowned and ascends is one's domain. The people in one's past mortal life will often end up crowding together after ascension in the heavens, in the mortal realm, as gods, as humans. Life is just awkward like that. There was no reason for Qi Ying to abandon the West and move to a different territory. The two were in the middle of their argument when there was someone suddenly banging loudly on the doors. "Who is it?" "It's me." Zhang Yu turned to Yin Yu angrily and said under his breath, "Why'd this stinking brat come?" Yin Yu gestured for him to go to the back and schooled his expression before going forward to open the doors. Sure enough, standing just outside was Qi Ying. He seemed to have grown taller again since last they met. He was about the same height as when Xie Lian first met him, and he had finally stopped perching on windows. When Yin Yu spoke, he sounded fairly calm. "Oh, Yijin, it's you. Are you not attending the Mid-Autumn Banquet? Why have you come?" Qi Ying followed him into the grand hall, and the moment he spoke, it was something blunt. "It's my birthday." So the Mid-Autumn Festival was Qi Ying's birthday, and he'd come looking for his birthday present. Xie Lian had also heard that Yin Yu, as shixiong, would always gift Qi Ying a present on his birthdays. It was probably due to that mini awkwardness that this year there wasn't one. By the Windmaster's words back at the autumn banquet, Yin Yu had probably been avoiding him on purpose for some time now. When someone started avoiding meetings and stopped giving gifts, those who were a bit more sensitive would have noticed and wouldn't have ever come asking for gifts. Yet here he was, never thinking anything was wrong, and came knocking in full confidence. Xie Lian had never seen anything more tragically awkward. If he wasn't touching foreheads with Hua Chong right now, he would have slapped his own face and covered his own eyes so he wouldn't have to watch anymore. Oh, that's right, today's your birthday. But it's been busy here in the palace recently, so there's nothing? Yin Yu seemed to think things weren't right like this, so when the words reached his lips, they made a U-turn. Oh, no, I didn't forget. It's in the back. Just wait a minute. Qi Ying sat himself down on the spot, resting both hands on his knees, nodding energetically, looking very hopeful. Yin Yu fled to the side chamber, and Xianle was sitting there grimly. Of course Yin Yu hadn't prepared anything. So the moment he entered the room, he flipped through all the drawers and dressers, chests and shelves, but he couldn't find anything proper for the occasion. Help me find something quick, something that could be temporarily used as a gift. Xianle grabbed a rag cloth and threw it on the ground. He stomped at it twice before saying hatefully, "Give this to him." Xianle! Even gifting something like this should be more than what he deserves. I can't believe he's shameless enough to come. You don't understand anything. In the years past, I've always gifted him something. If I don't give him anything this year, it'd seem too deliberate. Anything will do as long as the intention's there. Well, how about this? Go find me the golden exorcism armlet that we got last time. It's not quite appropriate, but at least it's something. He had to urge a couple times before Xianle went angrily. Yin Yu returned to the grand hall and then sat in front of Qi Ying. And just wait for a moment. Things are a bit disorganized right now, so I sent Xianle to look for your gift. By the way, what have you been up to lately? Things have been going smoothly, I presume. I heard the number of worshippers at your palace has increased 5-fold these past few months. Congratulations. Qi Ying replied, I don't know any worshippers. I'm just doing my own thing, and they come crowding my temples for some reason. Weird. I slayed a wolf monster recently. Yin Yu's smile became stiffer. What he couldn't take on, Qi Ying took on so effortlessly. This was very much like a situation where you just couldn't win over a girl you loved, and she ignored you completely, but when she ran into the arms of someone else's in tears, this someone else couldn't even be bothered to spare her a look, and instead turned around to tell you how she was only average, nothing to be amazed of. Truly a bitter feeling. Qi Ying talked on for a bit and then suddenly said, I saw you earlier at the Mid-Autumn Banquet. I wanted to talk to you, but you left so quickly. When he finally stopped talking so excitedly about the recent battles of his domain, Yin Yu finally exhaled in relief. Oh, there was a little something, so I came back early. Qi Ying nodded. Someone told me it's because they greeted you as the wrong person. Hearing this, Yin Yu's face instantly dropped, but Qi Ying didn't notice at all, his lips curving upward. What's so funny? So stupid. Xie Lian couldn't bear to watch anymore. He buried his face in Hua Chong's arms. This is too tragic to watch. Of course, Xie Lian believed wholeheartedly that Qi Ying thought it was truly funny that others had made a silly mistake, and at the same time did not realize at all just how not funny this was to Yin Yu. But this didn't change the fact that if the other two were going to continue this awkward conversation, he was going to die from suffocation. Thankfully, before he could be suffocated, Xianle finally came around with the gift box. He passed the gift box to Yin Yu and went away to the back again without a word. Yin Yu also looked like he had just received absolution and passed the box on directly to Qi Ying. He seemed to be ecstatic, and he hopped up on the spot receiving the box. But Yin Yu's smile was already laced with fatigue. Why don't you open it after you go back? Okay, I'll head back now. I'm going to patrol next month. If Xizhong is free, come with me. Yin Yu couldn't listen to any more of anything he was going to say, and offhandedly placated him with all right. Once the boy was sent off, Xian Yu came out cussing and slamming the doors. Who does he think he is? Did his mom drop him on the head hundreds of times at birth? If not, then he's here to mock you on purpose. What? I don't know any worshippers. What patrol? Is he trying to show off? What a malicious heart. This time when he yelled, Yin Yu didn't stop him. Silently, he headed back to the chambers and never did emerge again. Xie Lian instinctively felt the gift box Qi Ying took away was problematic. Could it be? It's the brocade immortal in that box. You guessed it, Hua Chong said. Then Shan Yu should have been the one responsible for the crime of the brocade immortal incident. Why was Yin Yu's punishment so heavy-handed later? Gege will find out 3 days later. He said 3 days, and 3 days went by. Rays of sunshine startlingly shone through into the palace of Yin Yu, and Yin Yu sluggishly walked to the side of the chambers, seeming to be rummaging for something. He flipped through the chests and delved into the drawers. However, unexpectedly, as he rummaged, he suddenly fumbled out a shiningly gold armlet that was covered in charmed spells from the desk. He didn't care for it at first and placed it aside, but then a moment later he suddenly picked it up and called out, "Zhang Yu!" "What is it?" "Why is the golden exorcism armlet here? Didn't you gift it to him? Didn't I have you wrap this up in a gift box?" "Gift him? He doesn't even deserve a drop of your spit." "Oh, you didn't actually give him that foot cleaning cloth. Why must you offend people?" "I didn't. I gave him something better." Yin Yu's face instantly changed. He clearly didn't think things to be light anymore. "What?" "I was wondering why I couldn't find it anywhere. That robe can manipulate minds. It can suck blood." Then he turned to hurry away, but Zhang Yu grabbed him. "Why so anxious? That robe can manipulate minds, that's true, but you're the one who gave it to him, so no one else can control him. As for the blood-sucking, maybe it'll be effective on mortals, but I doubt it'll do anything to heavenly officials. Look, it's been 3 days and nothing's happened to him." Yin Yu gave it some thought, pacing back and forth in the side chambers. "Besides, isn't that brat capable? Young and capable. Let's just see how capable he is." In the end, Yin Yu still wrung his hands together. "Oh, that won't do. We don't know just how dangerous that thing is. If anything happens, then we're done for. How can you take things so lightly?" Then, without any regard for Zhang Yu's calls, he dashed out. He bumped into many heavenly officials on his way, rushing to the palace of Qi Ying. The person in question wasn't there, so he grabbed a hold of people everywhere, asking anxiously, "Where's Qi Ying? I've something urgent. I need to find him." "Qi Ying? His Highness Qi Ying is in a meeting at the Great Martial Hall. All the top-ranking martial gods of the upper court are there today." Yin Yu didn't finish listening before he ran off. It was only once he reached the Great Martial Hall that he realized he couldn't enter. First of all, this meeting only summoned the top-ranking martial gods of the upper court, and he wasn't called. Second of all, even if he went in, he wouldn't be able to talk about the matter in front of everyone, so he could only wait outside. Through the windows, Xie Lian swept a glance, and sure enough, there were a number of familiar faces: Feng Xin, Mu Qing, Pei Ming, who were all in the hall all listening intently. What Yin Yu saw, however, was Qi Ying donned in impressive, shining armor. He appeared perfectly normal. Rather, it was Ling Wen standing next to Junwu on the throne, who was distracted, making frequent mistakes. It was so much that Junwu had to speak up. "Ling Wen, Ling Wen!" He called her a few times before Ling Wen snapped out of it. What is it? What's with you today? You keep staring at Qi Ying. Are you perhaps like me and think his new armor is quite nice? Oh my god, she knows! She knows! The martial gods in the hall also started laughing. Ling Wen mumbled an apology, wiping away the cold sweat on her forehead unnoticeably. However, the hand gripping the brush was still trembling. If Xie Lian was present at the time, he probably would have just smiled. However, now that he was perfectly aware that Ling Wen must have been feeling affected and perturbed seeing Qi Ying confidently wearing that bloody robe that she herself created hundreds of years ago, Yin Yu paced around the outside the hall, sometimes squatting, sometimes standing, agitated and jittery. At last, the meeting ended, and Qi Ying was the first to come out. When he saw Yin Yu, he greeted him. "Oh, Xizhong, why are you here?" Yin Yu instantly rose to his feet, incoherently said a few words before immediately getting to the point. "Your armor. Oh, it's great! The Emperor and Ling Wen complimented it earlier. Thank you, Xizhong." "It's good indeed. But the person who forged the armor said there's a little problem and wants you to bring it over for some tweaking." If he ordered Qi Ying to take off the armor directly, he would risk Qi Ying discovering himself that he'd been manipulated. It wouldn't be good if the matter should be found out, so Yin Yu couldn't afford for him to notice anything was amiss, which is why he could only make the request in such a roundabout way. But Qi Ying was puzzled. "What problem? I don't think there's any problems." After all, it was also awkward to ask for a gift already given to be returned. Yin Yu was thinking really hard on what to say when Qi Ying spoke again. "Oh, by the way, next month we can patrol together." "What? I don't think my name is on the list to patrol." Now you'd almost forgotten about the whole business with the brocade immortal. "It is. I mentioned you earlier, and the Emperor said he would consider it." In that flash of a second, Xie Lian could almost see the waves of hot blood rushing to Yin Yu's head. Years of built-up resentment and pent-up grievances finally exploded in this very moment. "What's wrong with you?" This was the very first time Qi Ying had ever seen Yin Yu so angry, and he blinked, confusion filling his face. A few heavenly officials who were passing by also snuck peeks over. Yin Yu hugged his head. "Did I say I wanted to go? What's the patrol of martial gods got to do with me? I didn't beg you, so who are you to mention me to the Emperor?" Outsiders might not know why Yin Yu was losing his cool like this, but Xie Lian could understand perfectly. After all, to an extremely proud martial god, this was a great humiliation. The patrol of martial gods was a ceremony that only the highest-ranking martial gods of the upper court could participate in. During the procession of this patrol, the chosen martial gods could demonstrate their might in subduing and dispersing monsters and demons. Not only could this help spread their name and increase their number of worshippers, there was also the opportunity to spar with fellow participating martial gods to improve their skills and build their relationships. By any estimation, this was a grand affair, and there was a certain demand for the prominent foundation and high-level skills for the attending martial gods. For example, having at least 4,000 temples or ranking in the top 10 at the Mid-Autumn Banquet. With Yin Yu's qualifications, he for sure wouldn't be eligible to participate in the patrol of martial gods. Even if he could go and was able to gain actual benefits from it, those who were aware of his status would for sure talk. Those with thick skins might not care. Countless small heavenly officials would fight to squeeze themselves in, but Yin Yu clearly was someone who wasn't thick-skinned. And knowing deep down they didn't have the qualifications, how could he possibly depend on the connections of someone else to force himself in? Besides, this someone else was Qi Ying, who once depended on him to escape expulsion from heaven. Qi Ying didn't get it at all. He probably thought it was a good deed, and so he mentioned it. And he didn't think there was any need for anything else. However, because Yin Yu looked truly furious, for the first time Qi Ying seemed to want to say something. But he stopped, looking like he didn't dare speak. A moment later, he mumbled, "Shixiong, why are you mad? Did I do something wrong?" Those words again. Xie Lian practically wanted to beg him to stop talking. As for Yin Yu, the veins popped on his forehead. He was teetering on the edge of a meltdown. He pulled at his own hair. "Oh, enough! I've had enough! I'm going fucking mad because of you!" Then he pointed at the great martial hall. "Qi Ying, don't talk to me anymore. Go take back your recommendations. Stop adding to my troubles right now, right this second." After he roared without another word, Qi Ying instantly turned and dashed back in the great martial hall. Yin Yu blinked, and only then did he remember that Qi Ying was wearing the brocade immortal. His actions weren't because he himself knew to be wrong and wanted to rectify. It was because he was being controlled. Within the great martial hall, a few martial gods who hadn't left yet were all watching in confusion as Qi Ying came blazing in. Yin Yu was outside the hall, slightly trembling, and he yelled again, "Oh, stop!" Qi Ying almost made it to Junwu when he halted abruptly and indeed came to a stop. It was only a good moment later before he came to, bewildered. "What's with me just now?" Junwu knitted his brows. "Qi Ying, don't move. Come and let me take a look. Your eyes weren't focused. You're surrounded by an aura of evil, and it seems you've been bewitched by an evil spell." Qi Ying scratched his head, feeling confused. "Okay." And he moved to go forward without any choice. Yin Yu could only command, "Come back! Leave!" The moment he gave the command, Qi Ying instantly turned around, running out of the hall madly, right in Yin Yu's direction. Perhaps it was because rage filled his mind, or perhaps he was going crazy from distress, but Yin Yu too started running in confusion, his steps all messed up, looking very much like a fleeing criminal. Junwu couldn't pretend that he didn't see, and he rose to his feet. "Take them down!" "Yes, my lord." Yin Yu was falling deeper into despair, his mind completely in disarray, and he roared while covering his face, Leave right now! Take off your clothes!" Qi Ying's eyes were blank, running rapidly while removing his armor. Yet unexpectedly, a number of martial gods came surrounding him halfway, going straight for an arrest. Seeing that there were people obstructing him from obeying his command, violence flashed in Qi Ying's eyes. His fists flew out, taking over 10 of the martial gods inside his targets, and he punched through them in a chain of holes. "Murder! Murder in the upper court!" Screams and blood filled the air. Yin Yu was already petrified, his face white as a sheet. It was probably only Ling Wen who possessed a face paler than him. He had never imagined that this brocade immortal was so powerful, so incredibly evil. Things were going completely out of control. Oh my god! What? Oh, we have one more chapter! Oh my god! What? What is happening? The lower-ranking officials that charged forward to apprehend him couldn't block Qi Ying's fists at all, and all perished on the spot. Seeing the situation growing severe, Feng Xin, Pei Su, and Long Chanshu all leapt over to surround Qi Ying, ready to attack. Not Mu Qing. He was like, "No, I'm not going to do that." Yin Yu cried, "Ignore him! Don't touch him! He won't kill anymore!" As long as they didn't prevent Qi Ying from completing his command, he wouldn't cause harm. However, Qi Ying had already killed over 10 martial heavenly officials, so who would continue to let him run free? Of course no one would believe in Yin Yu's words. If this was someone with fast reactions, who could remain calm in the midst of chaos? They would have instantly shouted, "Drop to the ground, surrender, and don't move," or command to that effect, but things were happening too fast and there was no time to react. Yin Yu had never experienced any situation like this, plus he was already in distress, his ability to make decisions completely out of sorts, making one mistake after the other, one wrong step and the rest of the steps were in shambles. Just as Yin Yu was running around with his head cut off, Mu Qing suddenly appeared behind him, trying to get away. Only then did Yin Yu realize he was also fleeing without direction, and he instantly braked, trying to explain himself. "Oh, I wasn't!" But Mu Qing didn't wait for him to speak before twisting his arm behind his back. Xie Lian heard a crisp crack, Yin Yu's face twisting. As a martial god, to be subdued by another martial god whose ability and strength were greater was a double whammy to both the body and the mind. As for Pei Ming, who was only watching the fight on the side without participating, he commented from a distance, "How come it's like his strength suddenly exploded?" I like that Pei Ming! All this is going on. Pei Su, Feng Xin, Lan Chanchu, and Pei Ming's just like over the sidelines being like, "Hey, did you notice that?" Like, what? He's referring to Qi Ying, of course. Qi Ying was already quite capable in combat, but with the brocade immortal on him, the level increased twofold. When the other martial gods faced him one-on-one, it was actually 2 against 1, and it wasn't fair. But since no one knew the secret within, they were too embarrassed to attack him jointly, because wouldn't it be pathetic otherwise? As they fought, Qi Ying ran down the main street of the Heavenly Court, covered head to toe in blood. When he suddenly saw a palace on the road, he dashed right in head first. The crowd shouted he entered the palace of Yin Yu. The command Yin Yu gave him was to leave, but he didn't say where. So Qi Ying went randomly. Several martial gods also followed him in. Since everyone was clear of mind, they held back while fighting Qi Ying, but he didn't care for anyone and fought with all he was worth against anyone who obstructed his orders. Thus, this enraged many of the martial gods. Feng Xin shouted, "This brat reeks of evil. Let's beat him down first and talk later." Everyone had that very intention, and the moment Feng Xin shouted, no one stayed reserved any longer. They all rushed in, surrounding him to beat him to a pulp. Swords swung, palm blasted, fists flew, legs kicked. Half of that already deteriorating palace of Yin Yu instantly collapsed. When Yin Yu, who was being restrained by Mu Qing, saw with his own eyes his palace falling apart from the brawl, his eyes bulged and he yells, "Please stop fighting!" As if that would stop the martial gods. But Qi Ying heard his order and suddenly arrested his fists. Now he'd done it. All the swords, blasts, fists, and kicks landed heavily on Qi Ying. Another tragedy. Lan Chanchu didn't have time to hold back his long sword and struck it deep into Qi Ying's shoulder. Thank goodness his sword was dull, and he instantly stopped his attack so Qi Ying wasn't sliced in two. Lan Chanchu shouted, "Stop fighting! It looks like he can't move anymore!" Feng Xin wiped the blood off his face. "Well, fucking finally!" Qi Ying laid on the ground stiffly like he was being bound by rope. On the other side, Mu Qing tied Yin Yu's wrists with the immortal binding rope before letting go of him. Yin Yu fell to the ground in a daze, and he looked dumbfoundedly at the mess that was the palace of Yin Yu. Scanning around, his eyes moved back onto Qi Ying, who dropped to the floor before him. Qi Ying seemed to really have a strong life force, even after being beaten to a pulp by several martial gods. Just now, his body practically contorted. He didn't lie still for very long before he suddenly sat up straight and confused. What's going on? The martial gods were all going to go mad from rage. They shouted at the same time, "You're in big trouble now!" Ling Wen had been following and watching closely from behind, and she finally exhaled, her face pale. She somehow still managed to coordinate help as she raised 2 pressed fingers to her temple and cried out in the spiritual communication array, "Medical officials, emergency aid, now!" Qi Ying was still very confused. He looked back and saw Yin Yu sitting on the ground, so he crawled to stand up, seeming to want to help him. Seeing that completely oblivious face matched with the background of his smashed divine palace, Yin Yu was still silent, but his face was slowly contorting. Qi Ying didn't know what transpired at all, and asked, "Shixiong, what are you doing?" It was like Yin Yu suddenly lost all sanity. He puffed an abrupt laugh and then shouted with his eyes brimming red, "Go die!" Hearing that cry, Xie Lian, along with the many heavenly officials, all widened their eyes instantly. Having received the order, Qi Ying immediately took action without thinking. He grabbed the sword from the ground, and with the sword in one hand and the other pulling his hair, he aimed for his own throat. The moment he moved, the first assumption of the martial gods was he was going to sneak attack, so they jumped multiple feet away. Yet they never expected he was actually going to slit his own throat, and by then it was too late for them to snatch the sword, and they all roared at him. Yin Yu was also astonished, but then he still hadn't come to, and turned away. Blood was about to splatter when Jun Wu's figure suddenly flashed behind Chan Yizhen. Crack, 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 crack. Within an instant, all 4 of Chan Yizhen's limbs were dislodged. Then Jun Wu chopped precisely on the back of Chan Yizhen's neck. Chan Yizhen lost consciousness completely, falling back to the ground in a heap. His body no longer resembled that of a human. His blood puddled around him. Finally, everyone, including Xie Lian, sighed a breath of relief. Everyone except Jun Wu. He turned around. His expression showed neither rage nor joy, but nonetheless exceedingly grim, and he turned to Yin Yu. With things having progressed thus, I trust you have an explanation. Yin Yu had his head buried deeply in his hands, and only when he heard him did he look up. I don't know anything. I'm not involved. It's not me. It's... However, he trailed off as he suddenly snapped out of it, looking like he suddenly realized just exactly what had come out of its mouth. Under so many eyes, he told Chan Yizhen to go die, and Chan Yizhen heeded. It was impossible for anyone not to have drawn the obvious conclusion. Mu Qing spoke up. My lord, Qi Ying's reaction just now must have been born from some wicked spell cast upon him. There must be something on him that makes him follow Yin Yu's commands, but what we don't know. Naturally, Ling Wen, who was standing on the side, knew exactly what that something was, but she didn't dare speak a word. Just coordinating, helping hands on the scene was as much as she could do. Lan Chanchu said in belief, is there such a thing in this world? What a summer child. Right, right. Just then someone pushed aside the crowd to rush in, and it was Zhan Yu. It was obvious that he had been out chasing after and looking for Yin Yu before coming back, and hadn't yet been told of what happened. What are you all doing? What's become to our palace of Yin Yu? How did it become like this? Who smashed it? Jun Wu approached Yin Yu languidly. He heeded your orders. How are you controlling him? His voice wasn't harsh, but there was an oppressive air of power, exceedingly suffocating. To be looked down upon from high above, it added another layer of fear in one's heart. It wasn't like Xie Lian had never committed major mistakes, but he had never seen Jun Wu like this. Before. It seemed Jun Wu had really let him off easy. Yin Yu's mind was already in disarray, and as far as Xie Lian could see, his mind wasn't very strong to begin with. His ability to react in situations weak. At a time like this, he couldn't utter a single word. Seeing that he wasn't responding, Jun Wu said, just as well. If you won't speak, I already know it's the armor. He was done for. Finished. Everything was doomed. Yin Yu crouched on the ground, hugging his head anew as waves of talk started from all around him. Astonishing. I've never witnessed anything more inconceivable in the heavens. A heavenly official manipulating another heavenly official to have him kill without reservations? He had him murder over 10 officials, and then he'd tell him to go die? What a vile heart. Among the crowds, when Zhan Yu figured out such a major incident had happened, his face also blanched. Still, he gritted his teeth and charged out, kneeling on the ground. My lord, that armor it was me who gave that armor to Chan Yizhen. It has nothing to do with Yin Yu. Only then did Yin Yu seem to stir, and he croaked, Zhan Yu. Zhan Yu braced himself and cried loudly, I only want to teach that brat a lesson, but I hadn't thought it would cause such a major incident. On the side, Chan Yizhen was still unconscious, lying in a pool of his own blood. The medicine masters and heavenly officials had rushed to the scene surrounding him. Zhan Yu said, I've always hated that brat, but Yin Yu has always treated him with courtesy. Many here can witness to that. He didn't know anything about this armor. However, at this point it was too late. There was no one who would believe Yin Yu wasn't involved at all. Instantly someone piped up, You're only a low-ranking official in the palace of Yin Yu, yet you already hate him to the point of causing him harm. It's easy to imagine that the master heavenly official you serve wouldn't be any better. There were even taunts. He didn't know anything? If he didn't know anything, why did you tell him to go die? Don't tell me he's only joking. If it was said that Yin Yu's reactions were all reasonable, that he only lost himself from distress, then his last words of go die negated everything. Those words could not break him free of condemnation. Thinking back, when Ling Wen first told Xie Lian the story, she said Yin Yu was playing a prank, which Xie Lian can now appreciate as her trying to help Yin Yu cover up a little. Zhan Yu couldn't believe it. What? Stop talking nonsense. How could Yin Yu say anything of the sort? He's always been polite and courteous with that brat. Why would he tell him to go die? Yin Yu, you didn't say that, right? You didn't say something like that. You wouldn't have said it. Yin Yu didn't answer and instead closed his eyes. Zhan Yu just wouldn't accept it, and everyone else around them became speechless. We all heard it with our own ears. How can it be denied? Well, there must have been a misunderstanding. There's so much you all don't know. No matter the kind of misunderstanding, whether we know or not, there's no misunderstanding great enough for one to want to kill one's own Shidi. Hearing this, Yin Yu and Zhan Yu were both silenced. That heavenly official continued. I heard ever since Qi Ying went independent and erected his own palace, the people of the palace of Yin Yu stopped caring for him. Every time Qi Ying visited, the excuse was always no one was around. I was confused at first, so it turns out it was because they couldn't stand him, huh? Speaking of, didn't someone mistake him for the wrong person at the mid-autumn banquet the other day? I saw how dark their faces got at the time. They were all unbearable truths, but the conclusion was wrong. Oh, I know of that incident too. It was pretty awkward. It's still not bad enough to want to harm someone. Yeah, it's too small-minded. Zhan Yu's eyes were seething red and he shouted, I already said His Highness had nothing to do with this. I'm the one who committed the crime. I admit to everything. Is that not enough? Yet even if Yin Yu was to jump into the Yellow River, he wouldn't be able to wash himself clean. In the eyes of others, this was only enough to prove that Yin Yu had a malicious but loyal subordinate. Besides, only 2 words were enough to shut down all arguments. Well, go die didn't come out of anyone else's mouth. Things were becoming more and more heated. Junwu said darkly, take them all down. Ling Wen, stay here and watch over Qi Ying. Oh, Ling Wen inclined her head to acknowledge the command, and Junwu stalked out of the palace of Yin Yu. Several martial heavenly officials pulled Yin Yu to his feet, and Yin Yu was heart-stricken. Let it go, Zhan Yu. Don't say any more. Zhan Yu was also pulled up and bound with an immortal binding rope. He cried, it's always let it go, let it go. This time you mustn't let it go. Let it go and you'll be finished. You'll be banished. You'll be banished for sure. Yin Yu only sighed, let it go. If it's banishment, then so be it. Even if I stay here, there's no meaning to it. Zhan Yu cried bitterly, you should never, ever have said those words. Just those 2 words and you lost all hope of returning this around. You'd usually never curse for him to go die, so why of all times did you have to say it now? Those words! It was like Yin Yu suddenly aged 10 years, and his eyes had lost their light. He himself seemed to be a little lost, and he shook his head. I don't know why either. I don't want to argue anymore. He stumbled a couple steps as he was being taken away, and Zhan Yu suddenly cried out, why? Everyone turned to look at him. It's not like you didn't work as hard. You're stronger than him by 10,000-fold, better than him by 1,000,000-fold. Qi Ying is nothing, so why? What if I hate him? Why is it that he's like that and you're like this? Why isn't it him who's banished? He gritted his teeth in resentment, so filled with hate for the reality of things, so filled with hate that tears rolled down his cheeks. But there are many things in this world where just hard work wasn't enough. Perhaps he knew this in his heart, but he just couldn't accept it. Unable to swallow all this resentment. Listening to his cries, Yin Yu's steps became heavy for him to move. He buried his face in his hands and fell to the ground in a heap before the palace of Yin Yu. He roared, enough! I already said not to say anymore. Please just let me go. He recovered his ears and cried until he was hoarse. Please stop repeatedly reminding me. Stop talking, please. I beg you all to stop talking. Xie Lian couldn't bear to watch anymore. That's enough. Thus, Huachong dispersed the scene, and the 2 lightly separated their foreheads. After touching their foreheads for so long, Xie Lian felt it to be a bit numb, a bit itchy even. His front uncomfortably warm. He wanted to raise his hand to rub at it, but his limbs couldn't move. Huachong seemed to have detected his little discomfort, and raised his hand to help him rub it, like it was the most natural thing in the world to do before dropping his hand. Oh my God! Wow! Outside, by the stone wall, the ghost mask-wearing Yin Yu had been pacing back and forth, and after a while he turned to Qi Ying. He said coldly, do you want to come out? He intentionally changed his voice. Qi Ying nodded, I do. Yin Yu replied, very well, look here. Then, in the blink of an eye, with flashing speed, the shovel was whacked against Qi Ying's head. Clunk! Qi Ying instantly dropped silent. Xie Lian was stunned. No way, he whacked him dead? Did he really kill him? Huachong laughed heartily. Don't worry, Gege, he's not dead, he just fainted. After the shovel was swung, Yin Yu exhaled a breath, and in the end, he seemed to have decided to dig Qi Ying out of the wall after all. He raised the Earthmaster shovel, digging through the wall bit by bit. Xie Lian understood. If Yin Yu was to save Qi Ying directly, Yin Yu wouldn't be able to fight him and win. And if he risked exposing his identity, which would be distressing, The relationship between the two, Shixiong and Shidi, was truly distressing to the extreme, and who was the more distressed couldn't even be compared. It was probably for the best that Yin Yu pretended to not know him. San Long, should we maybe think of a way to get out of here by now? Xie Lian said. Hua Chong seemed to be enjoying himself where they were. Oh, already? He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Well, yeah, I mean, do you want to live in here? If it's with Gege, I don't see why not. Hua Chong said, all right, fine, I was joking. He schooled his expression and reached out to cover Xie Lian's ears. What's this? Xie Lian asked. I'm too lazy to walk out, so I might as well just blow the whole place up. What? Well, Xie Lian was just thinking whether they could blow up others who were also swallowed by the mountain spirit when his expression changed suddenly. Wait! Hua Chong bore the same expression and dropped his hands. The two listened intently. A moment later, he whispered, did you hear that? Hua Chong lowered his voice. I did. Yin Yu was on the one side of the stone wall digging holes with the Earthmaster shovel, and on the other side, there was someone else who was talking. There weren't any silver butterflies spying. They heard the voice directly themselves because that person was standing really, really close to the stone wall, almost pressing against it, speaking. Xie Lian held his breath and listened, but he could only hear muffled, intermittent, indistinct words like ate them, upper court, martial gods. His mind whizzed, and he exchanged a look with Hua Chong and then tried with difficulty to move closer to the voice. The voice belonged to a man, and he seemed to be conversing with someone because every time he said something, he would pause for a moment. Yet Xie Lian didn't hear any sounds from the one he was conversing with. Maybe it was because the other was further away. Once they shuffled over silently, that voice became somewhat clearer. Although words were still somewhat blurred here and there, Xie Lian heard at least a few fuller sentences. The man said, His Highness the Crown Prince has also come. I don't want to take this step. I'm sure you're the same, but he's beyond saving. Xie Lian wondered inwardly, me? How am I beyond saving? Wait, this voice. This voice was very familiar. He must have heard it before. He had heard it for a long, long time, not just once or twice, but since it was from a long, long time ago, he couldn't match the voice to the man directly. Just as he was thinking really hard, the man added, then let him end here. Suddenly, Xie Lian remembered who the voice belonged to. His lady twitched his lips and muttered without a sound, Guoshi! Yes! Oh, the person who was on the other side of the stone wall had the exact same voice as the esteemed master who had once taught him in the kingdom of Xianle. Oh my god, you bitch! That Cliffhanger! Oh, you're joking. Oh my gosh. What was this? Well, I don't know if I'm going to wait for a long time before finding out what the deal. The Guoshi's back. The Guoshi's back. Of course, the Guoshi's back. We just took a couple chapters to learn about Yin Yu and Chan Yixin, and I'm pretty much speechless after that. I was so enraptured with that story. I nearly cried 3 times reading that. I don't know if you noticed, but I was getting really emotional reading that story because it just dawned on me everything about Chan Yixin that I needed to know. And then Yin Yu's character, this insanely complicated relationship between them that's so complicated but yet so simple too, right? I just, oh my God. And and then at the very end, like, because MXTX is like, oh yeah, like, we haven't had them in a while while we've been listening to this story. So it just, the moment that Hua Chong, like, gently, like, Xie Lian's like, I can't move my arms toward my forehead, and Hua Chong's like, oh yeah, I'll rub it for you. I'll rub before it, Gege. And Xie Lian's like, well, just the most natural thing ever. And then we find out on the other side of the wall is the Guoshi of Xianle, talking to somebody. Who? So we can, this is the true MXTX experience right here, because we found out all about Qi Ying and the Brocade Immortal. We found out all about it. So here's what we can do. We can take this and take that off of there. Isn't that fun? Yep, that's real fun. And now we're going to replace it. We're going to replace it with, who is the Guoshi working with? Now we have that plot point. Yay! We answered one question and we replaced it with another one. Yay! So yeah, oh my gosh. So I'm gonna wait a little bit, at least until we get some comments. Maybe I'm gonna at least record some other stuff first. I'm not gonna immediately tackle the next set of chapters. The next set of chapters I had picked out were chapters 163 through 166, which are only 1, 3, 4, 5. It's 4 chapters again. just going through them 4 chapters, but it's pages 303 to 342. So it's like 40 pages again, but it just worked out that that's the best way to do it, right? That's the best way to split up the chapters so that I'm not reading like 70 pages because I would die. But yeah, oh my gosh. So the title of these chapters, this translation says, "This jade refuses to be a thrown away brick." And the book calls it "This jade refuses to be a thrown away brick too." But it is actually derived from an idiom that means throwing out a brick to attract a jade. It describes the act of making a rudimentary suggestion that's intended to prompt others to come forward with better ideas. Yin Yu's name is written the same way as to attract a jade. So yeah, it's the idea of it's God, Yin Yu being the jade and Qi Ying being the brick. Yep. And oh my God, this relationship, the whole thing about it that made me nearly about to cry so often is because of just how innocent Qi Ying is in all of this, and that he just doesn't know. Like, and there's a difference, right? There's a difference. And I don't know what MXTX is. I mean, Zhang Yu kind of says it at one point, and I was like, well, you're saying it, but I'm like, nobody else is saying it, but Yin Yu kind of seems to understand. But the whole time, I'll just go out and say it, what I'm thinking of, there's a difference between Qi Ying and Lan Chanchu. Lan Chanchu is a himbo. He's kind of ditzy and airheaded. Like, he's just like naive and innocent and airhead, and he's like what, guys? Oh my gosh. You know, like a valley girl kind of. Qi Ying, I feel like, has a barrier there. There is a learning disability there. There's something that's preventing him, and not necessarily learning, but there's something that is socially he doesn't get, right? And it's just something mentally that it's not clicking with him that it does everybody else. And it breaks my heart because he's so innocent, and he doesn't get that what he's doing is making other people feel uncomfortable. He doesn't get that other people make fun of him. He knows that, and the thing about this makes me so sad and heartbroken is that he knows that people are making fun of him, and he knows that people are saying these mean and awful things, but he doesn't know what to do about it because he just doesn't get it. And it's just it breaks your heart, and you're just like, oh. And I felt like Yin Yu for the longest time, where Yin Yu's just like, yeah, I get it. Yin Yu's just like, yeah, you can tell Yin Yu understands. He feels for Qi Ying, because here's the thing that's kind of amazing about these chapters is he finds out early on that Qi Ying, he's got the aura. He's gonna ascend. You know, he's got the potential. And I love the way the book phrases it, that people that don't understand it will never understand it. It's almost like one of those things that only those who are destined to ascend will understand the feeling of seeing someone else about to ascend too. And we saw that with Xie Lian and Long Ying. We saw that he saw the king's aura and was like, oh, you're going to be one that ascends. Oh my gosh. And so he could understand it. The same thing applies with Yin Yu as well as Qi Ying. He sensed the aura and was like, you're going to ascend. Right? So he almost takes him in. He takes him in being like, hey, I'll help you. You know, you seem like, you know, do you understand? Because that whole thing is, does he understand the difference between right and wrong? And it's just one of those things where Qi Ying just wants to fight. He's just destined for it, right? And Yin Yu, it starts out with Yin Yu very much just intending to help him, being like, oh, I just will help him, right? But there's lots of stuff brought up along the way that it becomes like a domino effect, right? And there's so many comparisons that we see to other plot lines that we've seen in the story so far. But the fact that Qi Ying was never mad at Yin Yu. He didn't understand. He wasn't mad. I was just like, oh, it just broke my heart, because I was like, he never understood what was going on. And he doesn't know that the masked man digging him out is Yin Yu, because he's just kind of like, well, dig me out, help me out, come on. He doesn't understand. I think if he knew it was Yin Yu, he would have a much different reaction. But Yin Yu is just like, I don't want him to know, because this got real awkward back then. He's like, now is not the time in this mountain spirit belly for things to get awkward once again. He's like, we need to get out of here. So, but at the end of the day, he loves him and he saves him. And it's just like, I was going to cry like 3 times. Like, as I was reading, I was trying not to hold it back and being like, I was like, oh, just, it was giving me like Forrest Gump vibes, if I'm being honest. Like, Chon Yushin was giving me like a battle-ready martial god Forrest Gump. And he was just like, I know how I am. Because that's the thing. If you've seen Forrest Gump, like, he understands that he doesn't get all the cues. And you find out by the end of the film that he's known this whole time how he is. And it just breaks your heart. And I was like, Chon Yushin knows. But he's like, I don't know what to do about it. Because he doesn't know what to do about it. He's just aware. He's like, people make fun of me and beat me up. And he's like, I don't know. Am I annoying? Am I bad? And Yin Yu... And the saddest part about it is that Yin Yu just snaps. He just breaks. He breaks for a lot of different reasons. It was just the worst time, at the worst place, under the worst circumstances for it to happen. And Jian Yu is to blame as well, because Jian Yu gave him the damn armor. But we'll talk about that scene because they're both kind of to blame. And Hua Chong what I like about this too is Hua Chong doesn't come out and say, oh yeah, it's Yin Yu's fault or it's Jian Yu's fault. Xie Lian asks, well, why wasn't Jian Yu punished? I think they both were. Now, we don't get the full story of why Jian Yu isn't with Yin Yu. I'm assuming Hua Chong was like, no, I don't want a package deal. I just want one guy. We don't know. I was fully expecting Jian Yu to like commit suicide by the end of these chapters. I thought Jian Yu was going to kill himself if he thought he was going to be banished with Yin Yu. But that wasn't the case, I don't think. So, but for some reason, Hua Chong did not employ both of them. So who knows what happens? And maybe we'll get more of that story. Maybe we'll end up getting more of it, or maybe not. If we don't find out what happened to Jian Yu, it's not going to be the end of things for me. Maybe he just like decreased in power and disintegrated. Who knows? It's not going to bother me if we don't find out. But then a part of me is like, is he going to come back? Because all these characters come full circle, right? But I feel for Yin Yu and I feel for Chon Yushin. It was just a very bad circumstance. And now what Ling Wen said, where she was like explaining the story to Xie Lian early on, she was trying to make things better because she probably feels like she has a hand in this. Now the question is, how the hell did they get the Brocade Immortal? How did they get that? Did they know? They knew what it was. How? What was going on, you know? So we've got a lot of things that were going on here. So things to note, first and foremost, that the Brocade Immortal had been with Yin Yu's palace. Now, we don't know if they apprehended the Brocade Immortal and Ling Wen was just like, ah, shit, can't do much about it. Or if Ling Wen gave them the Brocade Immortal and was like, did Ling Wen plant it there thinking nobody would ever find it and she could just go back and get it later? We don't know, right? We don't know the circumstance of how it got to Yin Yu's palace. But I'm glad we get this explanation, because when we first heard the story, it was like, well, why would Yin Yu? He doesn't seem like the type of person that would frame Chon Yushin. And it's just all a giant misunderstanding, right? It's just like a bad to worse scenario, right? And they go there, the idea of going in the past. I like the fact that Hua Chong has this ability to dig in people's memories and go into the past. How? I like that Xie Lian's like, how do we do this? And Hua Chong's like, shh, I'm all powerful. And Xie Lian's like, oh, okay. And we just accept that as fact. We just accept that he's all powerful. That's just the fact of the matter. Don't worry about it. Is basically the answer that we're given. Just don't worry about it. It'll be all right. I think that's fascinating. I'm like, okay, sure. And then what they see, they close their eyes and they go back and see a large street. And so then I love that Xie Lian like kind of disses Yin Yu. He's like, wow, he wasn't so boringly plain back then. And Hua Chong's like, well, we were all young once, right? So it's so sad because Yin Yu now is so plain and boring because he's just drained. But the idea that maybe he can reconnect with Qi Ying, maybe that will work. But then will Qi Ying even understand? That's kind of the thing. Would Qi Ying even understand what was going on? Or would he not get it? And so it's just better this way. It's so bittersweet. And it just breaks my heart, right? So we cut to the first time they meet, and everybody, that's the thing that gets me too, is that no one gets Qi Ying, and they all don't get that he's just like this, and they all give up on him and treat him so horribly. And Yin Yu is like the one guy who gets it. And he's like, no, and he takes pity on him, but he also is trying to be nice to him. He's like, no, it's all right. And so he takes him back to his sect to get trained. And the crazy thing is that, and I like the Xie Lian's like, well, did he do something wrong? And Hua Chong's like, well, it's difficult to say. Like, we need to watch and you kind of determine yourself what's going on. But the idea that people get mad at the sect, they're mad at Qi Ying because he got the best at the bottom of the ladder. And they don't get the whole ascension potential. They don't get that at all. All they see is a kid that causes trouble because he doesn't understand social cues and he doesn't get things of society, and he's causing trouble, and they don't understand why he gets the best of the best when he's at the bottom of the ladder. They're like, we've been working as cultivators for years, and he's getting better stuff than we did, and he hasn't even had to try or be here that long. And there's a thing to it too, where, you know, part of Yin Yu is knowing that he has the potential to ascend. Part of it is that he wants to help Qi Ying because maybe he worries that Qi Ying can't get those things those other guys can. And part of it is like, maybe Yin Yu's like, well, he needs some extra resources because of just how he is now, the circumstances, and he's just trying to help him, right? But that greed that's there in the system, that greed that these guys have, is preventing them from seeing that. And God, it's kind of relatable to real life, where there's people that need assistance and need extra things, and some people are like, well, why do they get that? Why didn't I get a chance to do that? I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have a friend that, I guess maybe that's why it strikes me so, like, personally, because I see my best friend has a physical disability, a physical handicap. And when we go somewhere, like we went to an amusement park and they had like a ticket and we could come back to the ride and like go back to the ticket at a certain time, right? Because it takes a little bit of extra time to help my friend get onto the ride. Like, that's just part of it. And they're used to it. But I remember one time we went to the park and we showed up and went to the front line, and I remember hearing somebody be like, well, why do they get to cut? And I was just like slowly turned around. I'm like, because it takes us 20 minutes to get on the ride and she can't bend her legs, shut the frick up. like you privileged ableist, you know? Like, I was just so frustrated because it's like, yeah, that's just how it is. Like, it's just trying to help somebody who doesn't have the same capabilities as you. And so it's just like, quit being an asshole, you know? And I guess I felt so defensive for Qi Ying because, yeah, it's not that Qi Ying is a bad person or a jerk, you know? We until we knew him in these chapters, he just seemed kind of cold and maybe distant, but no, that's just his personality. That's just how he is. And it was just breaking my heart that, like, nobody got him except Yin Yu. Yin Yu's the only one that maybe didn't get him, but was taking the time to understand and be nice to him. Just to be nice to him and give him a chance. And then the tables turned. Like Hua Chong says, once he ascended, because he was always destined to ascend. It was going to happen. And so once he ascended, that's when things went down, right? And I like that we have, before the ascension, we have like the opening ceremonies, like the housewarming ceremonies for Yin Yu's palace. It felt very Sleeping Beauty-esque. It felt very Sleeping Beauty, like everyone comes in with gifts to give, except there's no baby Aurora. it's just Yin Yu and Zhan Yu. I don't know if Zhan Yu is his brother or if they're relatives. I feel like if they were brothers, then it would have specifically said so in the text. And, you know, because brothers are pretty, you know, like Shi Wudu and the Windmaster are like, you instantly are told they are brothers because they have that bond. You don't get that explanation with Zhan Yu and Yin Yu, so I figured they were just relatives. They were just like cousins, kind of like Qi Rong and Xie Lian. Could you imagine if Qi Rong had been allowed to be a deputy in the heavenly realm, like how different the story would be if Qi Rong had ascended. See, in that case, Qi Rong would be causing trouble for no reason and would know exactly what he's doing, right? With Chan Yijin, it's a little bit different. But I like that we learned some things. We learned some things about what's going on. We learned some things specifically about Heshan. We find out he can make up to 50 clones running around, tracking 80 upper court and 300 middle court officials. Holy shit. Hua Chong has been using Heshan as a spy for quite some time, and he can make clones that go all over the place. And one of them is like, just has the mask on and everything. And I like when Xie Lian's like, well, where are the 50-some clones now? And Hua Chong's like, oh, Junwoo's probably like ripping them out of the ground as we speak. And we see Junwoo get mad. And I was like, and the moment Xie Lian's like, he didn't get that mad with me. I'm like, oh, you got off easy, honey. I was like, oh my God. So yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, they just, nobody, it's such a tables turning, and it kind of shows the fakeness of the heavenly realm. It shows how fake the heavenly realm is, how hypocritical and gossipy they are, because none of them it's just like the mortal realm. When Yin Yu and Qi Ying first ascend, or he's the deputy to Yin Yu who has ascended, everybody's just dogging Qi Ying because he doesn't have any power. He's just there with Yin Yu, and everybody dogs him, everybody treats him awful, everybody cusses at him, and it just you feel so bad for him. And then once he ascends, then the tables suddenly turn. Once he has power and reputation and devotees, everybody's suddenly like kissing his ass and being like, oh my God, Qi Ying. And I'm like, you all hated him. Yin Yu's the only one that appreciated him. And you all are just being a bunch of kiss asses. And it's so hard to watch. And Qi Ying, the thing that is so fascinating is that you have Yin Yu. What broke my heart and made me nearly cry was when Qi Ying was like, I don't like it here. I don't want to be here anymore. And I was like, oh, my heart like fell to the bottom. Like I wanted to cry and be like, well, you can't leave. I guess you can, And when Yin Yu says, well, I don't like it here either. I don't like it here, but I'm not going to leave. And then when Qi Ying's like, well, why wouldn't you leave? You don't like it. Like, let's just go. And he said, let's go together. He's like, let's go back together. I'm like, I don't ship Qi Ying with anybody at this point because he's just too wholesome and beautiful. But I feel like Qi Ying and Yin Yu, they almost feel like, and maybe I'll get to the point where I can ship them, but they feel more like brothers, like just brothers that Yin Yu wants to take care of him. And Qi Ying has a very asexual, aromantic, I don't really know what to do with these feelings vibes. So I'm like, I could never see him be like feeling that affectionate towards someone that way. His affection though to Yin Yu is very much I love you, not sexually or not romantically. He's just like, I love you. Let's just leave then. I care about you and you care about me. But the thing of it is that for Yin Yu, the heavenly realm, it is the goal. And he chooses his pride and chooses to be like, this is as high up the ladder as I can go, Qi Ying. I'm too proud to go back down. Even if I don't like it, I'm going to stay here. And Qi Ying doesn't understand. He's like, I don't know. I don't get why you would do that if you don't like it, but I'm not going if you're not going, so I'll just stay too. And then when Qi Ying, when he ascends, he doesn't get the weight of the power. To him, it probably means, oh, everybody's treating me better. Okay, sure, that's a step up from where we've been. He doesn't understand the power and all of it that comes with it. He's just like, he's always been destined to ascend, and so it just happens. But Qi Ying Yin Yu gets so frustrated by Qi Ying because it just comes so naturally. And Yin Yu's like, everything I've worked so hard to do and I've been so flustered and just miserable about, it comes so naturally to you and you don't even try. And it almost feels like Yin Yu thinks he doesn't appreciate it, but he understands why that is. And that's even more frustrating because he can't be mad at Qi Ying. It's not like Qi Ying is just like, oh, this old thing, whatever. He's not arrogant, and he's not thinking like, oh, I'm better than this. The thing that's so frustrating for Yin Yu is he can't even be mad at Qi Ying because Qi Ying doesn't even understand why what he's doing would frustrate someone. And it's just, it broke my heart. It just shattered it into pieces because you have Yin Yu, who does seem like he's a bit weak-willed. He's weak-willed, and he's a lot more prone to becoming anxious. And Qi Ying is just kind of oblivious. Oblivious to the sex of society. And I'm just like, oh my God. My heart goes out to them both, right? My heart goes back out to them both. And then we come to the mid-autumn banquet, right? The mid-autumn banquet. And so he's like, well, people shouldn't joke. I like that we get to this point where he's like, what's so great about ascension? Who cares if one ascends? What do you mean what's so great? Why don't you give it a try then? The moment Yin Yu's like, well, why don't you give ascension a try? And Xie Lian's like, you shouldn't joke about that. Be careful what you wish for. And Hua Chang's like, yep, half a year later, he actually did ascend. It wasn't a joke. So they go to the mid-autumn banquet. I will admit, the Blackwater just being right out there in the open, stuffing his face every year is both hilarious and disturbing because it implies that the Blackwater is just constantly hungry as a ghost. And then it's just like MXTX was like, oh, here's this thing of salt. Do you still get that wound from Hishan? Here's some salt on it. Oh, and look, there's the Windmaster. Let's rub it in. Because the moment the Windmaster was like, oh, Earthmaster Myeongjong. And I was like, womp womp. Won't tell us where they are. None of that business. Nope. Won't do that. Thanks, MXTX. Oh my God. But yeah. And so then Yin Yu, their temple constantly in decline now that Qi Ying has ascended. He gets mistaken at the banquet and it's considered embarrassing. And you know, somebody could say, oh, well, don't be embarrassed by it. But I mean, let's be real. Yin Yu, he based his whole life on this goal to get to this point and has worked so hard to get there. And without even trying, Qi Ying gets there, gets the devotees, doesn't even understand. It's just like, everybody just loves him. And suddenly all these devotees love him, and suddenly the heavenly officials are kissing his ass because he has power, and Yin Yu's like, I don't understand how we got here. And there can only be one that is the true God of the West, right? If it's not Yin Yu, then it's going to be Qi Ying. And I completely forgot that Feng Xin and Mu Qing were arguing or battling over who was going to be the one in the south. I forgot that. I was like, wait, what? Oh my God, yes, they are arguing over it. But that's part of the reason why both of them still have so much power is because the devotees, they're constantly fighting with each other over who's going to be the best, so it keeps them constantly with power. So it's total opposite with Yin Yu and Qi Ying. With Qi Ying and Yin Yu and them aren't fighting. There's no rivalry. Yin Yu's trying to support Qi Ying, but the devotees can't interpret that. So instead, they're just like, oh, Yin Yu's kind of boring. Let's go over here and worship Qi Ying. And he fought a wolf monster. And so it just causes Yin Yu's power to deplete. Whereas with Mu Qing and Feng Xin, there's a rivalry there. So they're fighting constantly, and the devotees kind of are like it's like Backstreet Boys versus NSYNC. It's basically Feng Xin versus Mu Qing. And I'll let you decide which one's which. Feng Xin is NSYNC. So, but yeah, it's so interesting because they keep each other going with the fandoms of devotees, whereas Yin Yu's just depletes and Mu Qing's just gets stronger. So it's the situation where you can't have two tigers on the mountains, right? I feel like the Yin Yu and Qi Ying are two tigers on the mountains, and then Feng Xin and Mu Qing are like two stags with their horns intertwined, and they can't, with their antlers intertwined, and they can't separate. That's the metaphorical animal I'm going to give to them, right? And so Yin Yu sees Qi Ying coming in with his entourage, or at least by entourage I mean all the people like sucking up to him, and ends up going back. And like Chan Yizhen leaves the party, leaves the banquet to be like, it's my birthday. Damn Forrest Gump of Heaven Official's Blessing is Chan Yizhen, and he broke my heart. And I want to hug him and stuff him in my pocket and run away with him and let nobody hurt him. Because, yeah, he just doesn't, like, the banquet means nothing to him. He's just like, it's my birthday. You're supposed to give me a present, remember? And Yin Yu has been avoiding him because he didn't want to give him the present. He thought it was going to be awkward. And so he's like, I don't know what to give him. And so that's when Zhan Yu gives him the brocade immortal instead of the armlet, instead of the fancy armlet that he wanted to pick out. And because the brocade immortal looks like whatever when you put it on, it ends up looking like a thing of armor. Now, the thing about it is that, again, Qi Ying makes Yin Yu feel bad because he's just like, he kind of doesn't mean to insult him, but he's like, oh yeah, that guy thought that you were me. Isn't that funny? And Yin Yu's just like, I'm done with it. And so what ends up happening is that he finds out that Qi Ying has the brocade immortal. And what gets me is at first, because I was like, yeah, I was with Xie Lian. I'm like, if Zhan Yu is the one that gave it to him, why didn't he get punished and not Yin Yu? But at this point, when Yin Yu is about to go tell him, he's like, oh, why are you so anxious? He's like, the robe can manipulate the mind, but you're the one who gave it to him, so no one else can control him for you. But, you know, the blood sucking's only affected on mortals. It's not going to affect the heavenly officials. It's been 3 days. Nothing's happened to him. The moment that line, Yin Yu gave it some thought, pacing back and forth, and then wrung his hands together. The moment there was that line, I was like, oh no. He thought about being complacent with it. He thought about it. But then he went to the palace. But because he wasn't like full on from the start, I was like, something bad's going to happen. Because he hesitated, right? He hesitated. And then it all just goes to hell. It all just goes to hell. He tries to go in there. And the thing about it is that Qi Ying, again, he tried to help out, thinking like, oh, I'll get my friend Yin Yu added into the procession with me. Won't that be fun? But Yin Yu was like, this, like, he's like, I know you think that you were trying to help me, but this is like a huge insult, and they're going to make fun of me and dwindle my palace even further. And again, Yin Yu, he let the power of being an ascended heavenly official get to his head. And, you know, the Yin Yu before they ascended would have been like, oh, it's fine. Like, he didn't mean anything by it. It's okay. But now it all like just dominoes. It snowballs, dominoes fall, and he's like, what's wrong with you? And that's the first time that he yells at Qi Ying. And that made me about cry. I was like, oh no. It was like, you're the only one who's not yelled at him and said something's wrong with him. There's nothing wrong with him. It's just, he just doesn't get that. It's okay though. And then he said, I've had enough. Go back and take back your recommendation. I love all the stuff with Ling Wen throughout this entire ordeal. I love that Ling Wen the entire time is just like sweating buckets, being like, oh my God, what do I do? Like this entire time, right? And Junwoo gets the brocade immortal after this, locks it up, and then it's not until Ling Wen breaks it out that we're to the place that we are now, right? But I was just like, oh my God. And then that's when the fact that Qi Ying was surrounded by the heavenly officials, couldn't hear Yin Yu's comment to take off his clothes, and started just like punching through the heavenly officials and murdering them is terrifying. The visual that MXTX gives us of this moment of Qi Ying just covered in blood, wearing the armor of the brocade immortal, murdering heavenly officials left and right, and Yin Yu is just like sitting here like, what do I do? What have I done? Like all of this, like it is horrific, right? Horrific. So then Mu Qing shows up. I like that the MXTX gives us a little thing of showing us that Pei Su and Feng Xin and Lan Chanchu go to fight him. But Mu Qing, I was like, where's Mu Qing in all this? He stays back, slurks in the background in the shadows until he can spring up and get behind Yin Yu and like dislocate his shoulder so that he can't get away, right? I also love that Pei Ming did not fight during this whole thing. Pei Ming sat in the back and was like, huh, how about that? Like he does throughout most of this story. I was like, Pei Ming! Damn it! But yeah, what the hell? And then that moment where he's like, Xizhong, what are you doing? Like he couldn't remember any of it. Now, the English version is a little bit different. In the version I had, he said, go die. It was like he'd lost all sanity. And in my version, he says, what's that part here? Where he says, where's that part? I have it all saved in between here because we do get a nice little picture of it. In my version of the story, if I can go back here, he says, I go back one more page to find it. You'll be banished for sure. What did he say here? Who smashed up? Yep. He said it was as if Yin Yu had lost all sanity. He puffed an abrupt laugh, his eyes brimming red, and cried, "Chan Yizhen, why don't you just go die? Go die, will you?" And then he was going to kill himself. And then Junwoo shows up and just snap, breaks all four arms, knocks him out. And I love that Junwoo stands up and goes, "Okay, what's going on? Like, I've had enough. Like, enough of this." And what is crazy about this whole thing is that, yeah, Junwoo was terrifying. Could have been more terrifying, but he was pretty terrifying. But Xie Lian notes that Junwoo was more stern with Yin Yu. I was like, he must have really let you off easy because, yeah, Junwoo was terrifying in that moment, but it's not like the scariest thing. So I was like, maybe it was, and Xie Lian just didn't think that it was that scary. I don't know. But yeah, that was just absolutely insane. And then Zhang Yu tries to, confess that it was him, but by this point, everybody heard Yin Yu tell him to go die. They're like, well, why would he tell him to go die if he didn't mean it? And it's like, they don't understand that this has been like decades brewing between them. And it's just the one time he snaps is the worst possible time it could have happened. Because now everybody thinks that it was him. So we know that he gets banished. We know the Brocade Immortal gets sealed away. We know that Yin Yu gets banished. I'm assuming that Zhang Yu gets banished. We never hear of him before now. We're assuming so. Unless Zhang Yu shows back up. I don't know. I don't know whether to put Zhang Yu on here or not. Nah. I'm going to assume they got banished, but we don't know for sure. But what's interesting is that Yin Yu, everything was so... I'm sure there's a part of Yin Yu that feels guilty for what happened with Chan Yizhen. And Chan Yizhen kept wanting to try to find out answers because he didn't understand what had happened while he'd been wearing the Brocade Immortal. So he kept going to Ling Wen. Of course, Ling Wen covering it up because she doesn't want to have anything to do with the Brocade Immortal, doesn't want anybody to know that she's had anything to do with the Brocade Immortal. So she's not giving him any answers. So the fascinating thing is that Chan Yizhen has been trying to figure out all these years why Yin Yu left. He's just so damn innocent. He doesn't know why. And Yin Yu is so embarrassed and feels so guilty for nearly killing, Qi Ying that he doesn't want to say anything. And so it's just led to this big awkward runaround, right? And now Chan Yizhen is, stuck inside the wall of the mountain spirit, and Yin Yu's like, "Do you want out?" And he hides his voice so that Chan Yizhen can't tell. And he says yes. And so he knocks him out so he can carve him out of the mountain and save him. So I was not expecting Yin Yu and Qi Ying's story to emotionally grip my heart like it did. But I was on the edge of my seat reading that, just those chapters were so, so, so good. And then at the very end of them, mind you, we then have everything snapping back to reality. And Hua Chong and Xie Lian being like, what do we do? And so Hua Chong's like, well, should we get out of here? And Xie Lian's like, yeah, we should probably get out now that we've learned that backstory. I do love the part where Hua Chong's like, do you want to live here? And Xie Lian's like, do you want to live here? And Hua Chong's like, if it's with you, I don't see why not. I'm like, get a room, you two. Get a house. Get another Puji shrine. Just don't make the mountain spirit's belly your Puji shrine. You guys should go somewhere else, right? And then Hua Chong's like, well, I'm too lazy to walk out, so just cover your ears. I'm going to blow this place up. I'm kind of glad that he doesn't blow it up at first, because I'm like, what about Pei Ming? What about Ban Yu? What about everybody else? Are you going to blow them all up too? But then they hear a voice on the other side of the wall. They hear a voice. Now, the voice, and I'm going to go to my spot here, says, I'm going to use the English translation. The voice says, ate them, upper court, martial gods. And then he's like, who is that? It belonged to a man, and he's conversing with someone because every time he said something, he paused for a moment like he was hearing them talk back. my theory is, because they say there's two possibilities. So he says the words ate them, which is referring to the mountain spirit eating the crew, which is all of them. Upper court, which would probably refer to Qi Ying being involved, and Pei Ming being involved, and Xie Lian. And then martial gods, which involves Xie Lian and Pei Ming specifically. So relaying to whoever they're talking to that there are upper court heavenly officials here. There are martial gods. They're not to be trifled with, but they've been eaten by the mountain spirit. Like they're checking in. Now the options are they checking in via communication array? Are they talking to someone within a communication array? Is that happening? I mean, you would think they would do it privately, but if they think they're alone and nobody's watching, that might be inconvenient. And they're just like, I'm just going to talk out loud like I'm on, like they got a Bluetooth in and they're just talking in the Bluetooth. Maybe that's it. It's either that or the person is with them. The other person is with them. And they're just far enough away that Xie Lian can't hear them, right? But then this gets said, right? It says, he's like, they listened close, they silently shuffled closer, the voice somewhat clearer. The words were still blurred here and there. So, okay, so the wall, on one side they can see through the butterfly. This is not where Qi Ying is. Where Qi Ying is, they've been listening, they've been looking through the butterfly to see him over there. But this is by where they are. So it says, he says, His Highness Crown Prince has also come. I don't want to take this step. I'm sure you agree, but he's beyond saving. So, we know this is the Guoshi that is talking. He says, His Highness Crown Prince. Okay. So that in itself is a clue, because why would you not say Xianle, the Prince of Xianle? Why would you not say, you said His Highness the Crown Prince. The only people that would know His Highness the Crown Prince are the people that were around the same time he was around in Xianle, right? They're the only ones that would know, because otherwise you'd say the Prince of Xianle or Xie Lian. You would use the name rather than say His Highness the Crown Prince. Only people from around that time would know who you're talking about. So whoever the Guoshi is talking to has to be one of those people, right? That would make sense. So it has to either be Bai Wusheng. Could it be Long Ying? Could be. I don't think it would be Feng Xin, because Feng Xin is in the upper court, and why would the Guoshi... Feng Xin is too straight-laced. He's been working with Xie Lian. He would have nothing to do with the Guoshi, I don't think. Mu Qing? Mu Qing's on the run as supposedly as Fu Yao, so hiding as Fu Yao, so we don't know why Mu Qing is on the run other than he's trying to get the fetus spirit back, and that's all related to Xianle, so we don't know exactly what's happening there. So by process of elimination, since Mu Qing's being weird, I'm going to say Mu Qing or Fu Yao. We haven't got it confirmed, but that's the only thing that's been kind of spoiled. That they're right now, he is posing as Fu Yao. It could be Xianle, could be her with the fetus spirit. Maybe she knows the Guoshi. They're from back when Xianle's time. The Guoshi could know Xianle and the fetus spirit, absolutely. And I think that he would talk to her about the prince. I don't think it's Feng Xin, because Feng Xin's like way too tied in with Junwu and them. Other than that, it's probably not Shirong, but I have to put him on there because he's the only one that knows, right? And then the other option is it's someone else, an other. So my theory is it could be the other. It could be somebody we don't know, right? I don't think it's Shirong, because Shirong, I don't see the Guoshi of Xianle paying any mind to Shirong. I don't see that happening. I think he'd be like, boop, bye. Xianle, it could be, but he says the phrase there, he says, I don't want to take this step. I'm sure you agree, but he's beyond saving. So I don't think Xianle cares about Xie Lian enough to worry that he's beyond saving, right? that would lead me to believe it could be Mu Qing, because Mu Qing cares about Xie Lian, but what do we do with that? And then Bai Wusheng and Long Ying, I don't think either of them care about Xie Lian, so I'm going to X them out for now because we don't know. I don't know. But I don't know for sure. He says, yeah, I don't want to take the step. I'm sure you agree, but he's beyond saving. I like Xie Lian's like, me beyond saving? What? Like, why would you say that? And then he says, just let him end here. Now, one thing I was going to note that was a parallel that I saw is the parallel between Yin Yu and Qi Ying and Xie Lian and Hua Chong. And I'll explain that. And then we have Zhan Yu and Mu Qing. Okay. Because both Yin Yu and Xie Lian are both people who get in places of ascension, have a place of power, come from a place of propriety. Like we have a sect leader that's Yin Yu. We have the crown prince, Xie Lian. They're both people that are well established within their communities. They have a leadership of their own. They have people that are under them. They have influence. Yin Yu takes in Qi Ying and gives him all the things. And Zhan Yu is kind of like, well, hell no. Why are we doing this? Why did we do this? What the hell? No. So he's like, this is a bad idea and it will only lead to bad things. And then what happens? It's a bad idea and I won't say it's a bad idea. I think what Yin Yu did was right. I think he should have taken in Qi Ying. I think that's good. But for Zhan Yu, he's like, taking this kid in will only lead us to bad things. And unfortunately, what ends up happening are bad things. But it's not necessarily Qi Ying's fault. That's the problem. It's not Qi Ying's fault. It's actually Zhan Yu's fault. So, but the point is, bad things happen. Right? And it ends up hurting everyone involved. Regardless of whose fault it was, it hurts everybody involved. I feel like Xie Lian was planning to take Hua Chong in. He was planning on it. He was going to do it. He was going to take Hua Chong in, make him part of his group and possibly a deputy. Mu Qing, I feel, my theory is Mu Qing was like, oh, hell no. He'll cause destruction just like Qi Ying caused Yin Yu. And we find out that Zhan Yu loved Yin Yu. He respected him so much, only wanted the best for him. So he was like, I hated this brat because of what he was doing to you. I feel like that's exactly how Mu Qing feels about Hua Chong. I feel like Mu Qing feels like Hua Chong is dragging Xie Lian down when that's not the case. But that's what Mu Qing, I feel, believes about Hua Chong. And that's why he didn't want him to join him way back then. So it's all paralleled, right? So that's what I think. So maybe in this situation, it is Mu Qing. And Mu Qing's like, I didn't want Xie Lian to go down this route, but he's with Hua Chong. It's too late. He's beyond saving. He won't turn away from the ominous star. So now the Guoshi's going to be like, we've got to stop him. But what do we do, right? What do we do about that? So what do we do with that? And maybe it's somebody else, right? Maybe it's somebody else. I mean, the whole stuff with Yin Yu and Zhan Yu happened after Xie Lian was descended and out of the picture. He wasn't around when all this went down. But I'm just like, what? If it's not Mu Qing that's with the Guoshi that he's talking to, then it's somebody else. Because I don't think any of these others from around the time of Xianle would care. Is it Heshan? It could be Heshan. It might be, but I don't think so. Hua Chong kind of seems like that would not be his style. So I know right now all of you are sitting wherever you are going, because that's how I feel internally, right? But don't worry, we'll find answers. We just have this wall of unresolved plot points. We got 3 volumes. We got 3 volumes left after this one to get through. We'll get our answers, right? Oh my God. So the next set of chapters is going to be chapters 163 through 166. I do not know if there will be a Manhwa chapter with it. If not, there will probably be one for the set after that, but I'm not sure because I might read ahead, I might not. It'll all just kind of depend, but it'll all work out in the wash, right? It'll work out in the wash. So I've got a lot going on the channel right now, so I've been reading ahead, but we'll cross the Manhwa threshold when we get there, right? But we do get one image out of these chapters, and it is a beautiful image. I love it so much. It's Qi Ying on the doorstep with Yin Yu sitting on the windowsill, looking like a damn cinnamon bean. I just love him. It's like, it's the cutest thing. And I love their relationship. I love Yin Yu and Qi Ying's relationship. It's so sweet. And it makes me want to cry. So yeah, so yeah, we're good. We're good chunking now, right? I figured it out. We have 3 more parts left of this volume. We're doing all of this in 3 parts. That's how much we're going to go through in the next 3 weeks. I'm terrified. A lot can happen in 4 chapters, y'all. But thank you all so much for your support. Thank you for your kindness. I'm super excited to get to this next part. I hope y'all are too. But in the meantime, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week with chapters 163 to 166 of Heaven Official's Blessing. Bye!